Township TV 25006.
Can't hear you.
Louder.
Come on.
Next one is East Windsor Township TV 25006 QTS Investment Property LLC. We have your representative.
Point of order. Can someone inform us what the legal occupancy is of the room? It's been really hard to hear for those of us in the back. There's a crowd overflowing out of the room. The doors have been partially removed to the room, but it's unclear to me how many people are legally allowed in this space. I'm concerned for everyone's safety. What is the legal occupancy?
Yeah, I'll respond. First of all, now that we've opened up the doors here, and obviously members of the public can participate in the entire building, at least on the first floor, I don't think we have any legal occupancy issue. I don't think we had one in the first place, but now that we've opened up these doors, we've evaded that problem.
Respectfully, people have a right to ask.
We have an application on tonight for a public hearing. You are welcome to be here. Hopefully you have a seat. And we need to proceed legally with the public hearing that has been advertised for tonight. And I believe the chairman already asked the attorney to put his appearance on the record. And then I would ask the chairman and the attorney to indicate what further steps follow so that the hearing can be conducted tonight as was advertised. Thank you, everyone, for your understanding, and you will have an opportunity later in the meeting to participate as well.
We will handle this hearing the way we handle another hearing, which is the applicant puts himself and his witnesses on the record, and we hear expert testimony. At the end, we will listen to the public comments.
And actually, let me just add, I would request that there be no comments from the public while the testimony is occurring. There will be a public portion where you will be able to either cross-examine witnesses or make a public statement.
Right, but you have to be able to hear the testimony to be able to cross-examine a witness. We're having trouble hearing in the back. I'm not the only one.
Can I say that, Mr.
I would request everybody speak into your microphone. Speak loud.
May I proceed? Yes. Is that loud enough? Okay, thank you. Good evening, Chair, Mr. Berman, Mayor, Council Member, board members, board professionals. My name is Jeffrey Chang, law firm Fox Rothschild at the Princeton office. It's my pleasure to evening to represent QTS before this board. Just want to confirm that the planning board has jurisdiction and my legal notice was adequate for this board to hear this matter this evening? Yes. Thank you. I'm going to go through the overview of the applicant, the application details of what we're proposing, and we will have obviously all professionals this evening sworn in and qualified to testify before this board. So as you and the public would know, QTS Investment Properties Princeton LLC is the owner and applicant for property located at 159 Princeton Heights Town Road. It's also known as Block 63, Lot 6, 6.01, 8, 9, 10.03, 10.04, and 51 in East Windsor. It's approximately 193.02 acres in area. It's located in your RO zone, the research office. It permits computer centers, data centers, and this board previously approved the data center that's currently operating and expanded at this site. Real quick, the property has existing environmental stream corridor, there's a tributary in the Millstone River that runs behind it. The site has freshwater wetlands and buffers, 100-year floodplain and buffers, flood hazard area, and DRCC Canal Commission approvals are required. We are not going to be affecting those areas. We will seek approvals from those organizations. As you may know, we were before this board a couple years ago. QTS is a global digital infrastructure leader, has more than 90 facilities operating in North America and Europe. We've had 2 decades of experience designing, building, and operating world-class data centers, delivering secure, compliant infrastructure solutions. And we previously were approved for data center as operating. So currently we're proposing a phase 3 application, which is a new 2-story, 272,020 square foot data center building with associated parking, internal roadway improvements that will promote safe and efficient site circulation between the existing and the proposed data center. There's also going to be an electrical substation by JCP&L at the rear of the property. Upon completion, we expect to have 20 to 25 employees at the site. It's currently approved with a 360,031 square foot existing one-story data center building. We previously had demolished a 157,729 square foot office as part of the initial phase 1 operating plan. And previous approval was preliminary final site plan approval with associated bulk variances, which was memorialized in October 2nd, 2023 by resolution PB number 23-003. As I said, we're expanding the data center. It's going to be 76.31 feet tall at the highest point. That includes a mechanical penthouse. The actual building is 55.62 feet in height. Upon completion, this will contain an aggregate of 502,712 square feet of building area. And this,
How many square feet is that?
sir, 502,712 plus or minus square feet. We're going to have it, despite the increase of building area, we're going to have a reduction in impervious coverage from 1,010,592 square feet to 999,267 square feet. And we're seeking preliminary and final site plan with bulk variances and design waivers this evening. So I'd like to outline the variances that we're going to request for this evening. And again, our professionals will walk through this methodically, show the plans that we've already previously submitted. We will also testify. We're going to have an engineer, architect, traffic engineer. We're going to have an acoustical expert and also a planner, and obviously someone from QTS who will discuss the operations. So the variances that we're requesting, the new ones, are from East Windsor Code, section 20-18.4A, for minimum front yard landscape buffer, where 175 feet is required along Princeton Heights Sound Road, 124 feet is existing, and previously was approved from the existing building parking area, and 118.5 feet is proposed from the reconfigured parking area to the existing and proposed data center. Number 2, section 20-4.4C15 and 20-18.4A1 for height and location of a secure perimeter fence in the front yard of the property where 8 feet high fences are not permitted. The applicant previously received relief for placement of a new security fence in the front yard of phase 2 approval. It's been constructed, as you can see. The perimeter security fence is essential to protect the data center from preventing unauthorized access to the facility. Data security starts with limiting access to the data center to ensure that the facility will always maintain strict control over the property and has the most up-to-date security protocol. The third variance is section 20-18.4 for maximum building height of a principal structure where 55 feet is allowed in the RO zone, and 55.64 is proposed. And the last variance is section 20-4.9, height limitation of mechanical equipment. As I mentioned before, we're seeking 76.31 feet maximum height, where 70 feet is allowed in the zone. And there are a number of design waivers that we're seeking. I'll highlight them. 1, section 19A-2.3B, minimum parking spaces, 740 spaces is required, 182 spaces is proposed. Section 19A-2.4A, minimum number of loading spaces, 19 spaces are required, 7 spaces are proposed. Section 19A-2.7B, building lighting was not permitted, and building mounted lights are proposed. Again, that's for safety requirements. Section 22-27.9B, minimum building perimeter trees where 56 is required and 56 are proposed. In terms of the actual height, we're seeking, I think it requires 75 feet from building perimeter for the code. Section 22-27.5A, for rigid rectilinear shape of stormwater basin where meandering soft edges are required. My engineer obviously will go through that. Section 22-27.5A, proposed planting of ornamental trees, shrubs, and grass level plantings in the stormwater area where market trees are required. Section 19A-2.5, for overhead wire and substation above ground where all utility service are required to be underground. There will be a requirement for overhead wire to the substation. Section 22-10.3H, for minimum type of pipe for reinforced concrete, class 3 is required, And we're proposing class 1 or class 2 pipe, which is HDPE pipe. It's a high density plastic pipe. With that being called out as variances and design waivers, I wanted to outline that to the board professionals. I do have my entire team here this evening, so I would defer to Mr. Chairman how you would like me to swear them in one at a time or all at once.
Swear me.
So my first witness is Ryan Wayman from QTS as a program manager. If I could have you sit next to me. Speak into the mic, please.
Sir, please raise your right hand. I'll swear you. When you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please state your name, spell your last name, professional affiliation for the record.
Ryan Wayman, W-E-H-M-A-N-N, Senior Program Manager with QTS.
So I have Mr. Wayman testifying because he's a program manager, intimately familiar with the operation and the history of QTS. And again, if anyone can't hear us, please let us know. I want to make sure the board is fully educated on this matter. In the narrative, Mr. Wayman, could you walk us through a couple items? One, the history of QTS, the general operations, day-to-day, what's anticipated, so that everyone can understand what it is we're doing in this property, why we're here, why we're expanding. We have a very relationship with East Windsor. We want to spend hundreds of millions, about $1 billion on increasing capacity at the site. Things that we pride ourselves on for environmental sustainability. I want to highlight those items as well. Maybe a quick highlight of the construction phase of where we are, both operational, what is currently under operation, and again, items and what we're proposing. Also, general staff, like I mentioned, maybe a little bit about JCP&L substation. I know to the extent that you're able to share that, that'd be really helpful to the board. And discussion about cooling and generators at a high level. Obviously, we have professionals this evening to go down further, but I'd like you to highlight those so that everyone can really understand what we have in approved for, what's currently under construction, and what we plan to do.
Yes, happy to, I appreciate it. So, I've been with QTS as a senior program manager since 2023, and I've been responsible for campus design and improvement work since 2023, and I'm intimately familiar with the last phases of design and current construction. QTS is a global digital infrastructure leader. QTS responsibly and sustainably provides digital infrastructure critical to the future of our world economy. We have a 20-year track record of design, building, and operating world-class data centers, delivering the critical infrastructure for the world's largest and fastest-growing companies. As a digital infrastructure leader, we have more than 90 data centers in operation or under development across the U.S. and Europe. Data centers are the backbone of our modern digitally connected lives. A data center is a specialized building that stores, manages, and connects large amounts of digital information. Inside these data centers, thousands of servers run the applications and services that keep us connected across every facet of our lives, from healthcare, education, to financial services, and more. As technology like AI continues to evolve, the demand for data centers continues to grow. QTS prides itself in sustainability. QTS integrates sustainability into how it designs and operates data centers, focusing on transparency, operational efficiency, and community leadership, with significantly reducing environmental impacts. Core priorities include carbon-free energy sourcing, material recycling, and water conservation, with measurable goals and industry-leading practices that conserve resources and reduce emissions across our facilities. QTS puts these core priorities into action by utilizing a closed-loop cooling system. Once the system is initially charged and operational, it does not withdraw, consume, or discharge water for cooling, unlike evaporative systems, which require continuous water usage. A closed-loop design recirculates water internally and avoids major water loss, saving millions of gallons annually. As a result, QTS significantly improves water conservation, with design saving nearly 5 billion gallons of water globally in 2024, while supporting reliable data center operations. Over the past 3 years, QTS has made substantial and measurable investments in the on the East Windsor campus. These improvements began with the comprehensive master plan efforts followed by demolition of the former office building, hardening and modernization of the existing data center, and construction of 3 new data halls along with associated administrative spaces. The hardening of the existing facility has been completed, and our tenant is currently operating within the original data halls. In February of 2025, we completed construction of 3 additional data halls, and client commenced operation of those spaces shortly thereafter. Since that time, our focus has shifted to architectural and support components of the project. This includes the build-out of office space. This includes the build-out of office space to accommodate additional QTS personnel, creation of shared common areas to support QTS and tenant staff, and strategic decommissioning of certain legacy areas of the building to allow for future renovation and long-term campus optimization. At present, the administrative build-out is approximately 90% complete. We anticipate full project completion in late Q2 of 2026, with a formal grand opening to follow. These phased investments reflect QTS's continued commitment to the East Windsor campus and demonstrate both successful execution of prior approvals and the campus's readiness to support additional thoughtful planning and expansion. QTS has explored options for the future of this campus. In that exploration has led QTS to plan the plan that we are presenting today. Our goal in expanding this campus is to increase our presence in the market to support our existing and future customers. The campus is located on the corner of Route 571 and 1 Mile Road. The campus is supported by a substation powered by JCP&L, which resides on the property, along with 2 separate power points of entry for fiber optic connectivity. The facility is 1 mile from US Route 130, 5 miles from the New Jersey Turnpike. It can be accessed by rail via the New Jersey Transit Rail Station at Princeton Junction, and Amtrak via connection at Trenton or Newark Penn Station, and is 40 miles from Newark of the airport. This diverse access to transportation makes this a desirable area for many of our clients. Data centers, so from a value proposition point, data centers generate meaningful local economic value. Construction jobs, permanent operation roles, and supply ecosystems that include electrical, mechanical, security, maintenance, and technology services. QTS supports more than 16,000 jobs nationwide. QTS also partners with local contractors and suppliers who share our expectation of safety, quality, and environmental stewardship. This project is anticipated to have 20 to 25 QTS employees and approximately 70 to 80 tenant contractors and visitors. Well, data centers are critical infrastructure. They are also among the most secure and reliable facilities. QTS data centers are designed with multiple layers of physical, technical, and environmental security controls, including biometric access controls, 24/7 site surveillance, and advanced cybersecurity protocols. The physical security measures include high security anti-climb fencing, security gates, guard houses, perimeter lighting, and armed security guards. The newly proposed JCP&L substation will be incorporated into our campus design. But security access will be monitored by JCP&L and unrestricted to JCP&L personnel. The newly proposed substation will provide electrical services exclusively to QTS campuses. QTS pays for the cost of this project, and thus our project does not raise energy costs for local residents. There are mechanisms in place to prevent any disruption to services and to the surrounding buildings and residences. What were
The other, I just want to highlight, if you could, in a little more detail, closed loop system. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there about evaporative cooling for data centers that draw millions of gallons of water. That is not what's occurring here. If you could explain a little bit at a high level to the board and the public. I just want to walk them through what loop system means and how we're avoiding that issue actually in entirety.
Yes. So QTS leverages a closed loop cooling system system. So once that system is charged with water, completely filled with water, at that point, we no longer draw water from the municipal system. That system continuously cycles that water throughout the system. So once we have charged that system, our buildings use approximately 20,000 gallons a month, which is approximately the same draw as 2 residential homes.
The other thing that I wanted to highlight was generators. Can you describe how generators play a role in your facility, how limited they are generally, and why they would be kicked on? Obviously, we'll go to any noise or any attenuation issues that other professionals discuss, but I just want to, at the outset, discuss. So again, some of this information about generators, how loud it'll be, is it run 24/7? I want to make sure the board and the public is fully aware of what our business operations are.
Understood. So QTS leverages generators only on an emergency basis. So those generators are there for redundancy purposes in case there was any type of utility failure, that those generators would kick on only in the event of failure. Outside of that, the generators are exercised monthly from a maintenance standpoint to make sure that they're maintained in their operational efficiencies at the time that they may be needed from an emergency.
Only during the day, is that correct?
That is correct.
And the current data center has been in operation for a number of years, is that correct?
Yes, it has been in full operation over a year now with this current layout.
And to your understanding of the records, have we ever received any complaints about noise or general operation of generators, chillers, any negative externality in terms of the operation of this data center so far?
Not to our knowledge.
I have nothing further on the record for Mr. Wayman. I'm happy to go ahead and ask questions.
So this was an overview. Will there be, there'll be witnesses that will drill down?
Exactly.
So
Yes.
we'll wait, I'll wait on that.
Perfect, yes.
I have some questions, I will, this isn't the appropriate, about emergency, what constitutes an emergency, and are data centers networked with each other? My question has to do with, how about as backup in the cloud? Does the cloud have a backup in another cloud, which would mitigate declaring an emergency because the data is somewhere else?
I will answer the first question. So constituting an emergency would be any type of utility failure. So talking in the generator context, so when those generators are going to be triggered to commence operation is in the event of a utility failure. So if utility grid power were to be lost, those generators will turn on to support the power demand for that data center.
Do you have a battery backup for a shorter outage? Would you not require the generator to turn on?
No, sir. There are, we have a system that is a temporary standby, which bridges the power between when a generator turns on and when the power fails.
Any other questions?
So just, Mr. Chairman, do you have any questions or comment on the internet connectivity of data centers, or?
I can't speak to backing up the backup, but so your data is housed in multiple data centers all over. We do not operate that data component. That is our tenant that operates that.
Who is the tenant right now?
Can you talk louder?
Who is the tenant right now?
I can't speak to that.
Does the tenant select the hardware, or does QTS select the hardware?
The QTS leases space to our tenant, so at that point,
They select the hardware.
yes, sir.
Okay. Are there any constraints that would require them to supply the most, within economic feasibility, the most efficient hardware?
That is a great question and something we can follow up on.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, just a question regarding the backup of the system. If there's sort of a brownout, does the generators also get triggered at that point?
Any type of failure to the grid power, those generators will trigger on, and then as that utility power then comes back, those generators will then become offline.
And then the people you're leasing to for the actual operations of the facility, you're really supplying those backup systems, your control of those backup systems compared to the individual leaseholders?
That is correct.
Another question. Among, well, I don't expect you to be familiar with every one of your many QTS installations, but what is the experience of QTS with how long the generators, what is the extreme that you would expect for a generator backup to have to run?
I don't have that data with me, if that's something that we can go back and respond to.
Can I ask a question now?
No, at the end, we will serve, at the end of this meeting can run until the third. At about 8 o'clock, we'll stop the direct testimony and give the people who are here an opportunity to ask questions.
I think our professionals will be here to answer any questions the board or the public would need. I will not assume, but there will be multiple meetings most likely. I will absolutely, to your recommendation, you call all the professionals, make sure the public has the opportunity to ask all the questions. I understand the concern, we're here to make sure to show that QTS is happy to be in East Windsor for permitted use. We want to invest more money to be in East Windsor for all the reasons that Mr. Williams has testified to. And when we have that great relationship with East Windsor, we want to continue that with the public and the board, obviously.
Anybody else? Anything from our professional, anything else?
There's a hand back here.
Back here,
Thank you.
you had mentioned a closed loop system.
This will be at the end.
The next witness will be
It is very hard to hear.
I'm just sitting here. I can't do that.
Harder to see the exhibits. It's going to be really harder for you to see the exhibits.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask my qualified and swear my name witness, that's okay?
Yeah.
Mr. Please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name, and professional affiliation on the record.
Sure, my name is Matthew Kunstman. My last name is spelled Kunsman. I'm the senior project manager at Bowler, located at 30 Independence Boulevard in Warren, New Jersey. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. My license is in good standing. I have a bachelor's of science in civil engineering from Syracuse University, and I've testified in front of numerous planning and zoning boards in the state of New Jersey.
You've been qualified as a professional, you've been accepted as a professional engineer.
Yes.
That's fine.
Mr. Cohen, I'm going to have a couple things for you to highlight and to provide civil engineering in a narrative. But a couple things. One, you should enter your exhibits when you start. So if you could, whenever you get to each exhibit, please tell the board what it is, and then we'll mark it according to what the board numbers are. If you could kind of walk the board through what it is that is currently existing there, what are we proposing to improve the property with, discussing obviously building layout, discussing the bulk variance requirements, the variances that we're triggering and asking relief for, also discussing the design waivers, discussing the setbacks to all the residential properties near us, discussing traffic circulation, parking, environmental questions, water management, and also lighting. You hit all the rest of the narrative, I really appreciate it.
Sure, so I'm going to mark this exhibit A1.
And we have reduced versions for the board members. It's the same thing on reduced 8 by 11.
All right, So my first exhibit.
Can the public get something?
Titled aerial exhibit, prepared by,
Yeah, can you turn the exhibit to face us if the board has copies?
Can I see the exhibits since the board has copies in front of them?
Please, Mayor, board members, we can rotate as well. Just let us know.
Thank you.
again, this is exhibit A1, aerial exhibit prepared by Bowler, dated February 16, 2026. North is the top of the page for your reference. So the property is known as 159 Princeton Hightstown Road, located at block 63, block 6, 6.01, 8, 9, 10.03, 10.04, and 51. It has a total area of 192.16 acres. So on exhibit A1, the property boundary is shown in yellow. These are most of the exhibit. On the northern building frontage is along Princeton Hightstown Road, and that has an approximate frontage of 3,426 feet. On the eastern frontage is 1 mile road. That has an approximate frontage of 1,558 feet. The zone of the lot is the research office zone, RO, and just discussing some of the surrounding uses. So to the north, the site is bordered by Princeton Hightstown Road with industrial use with the warehouse beyond that. To the east is 1 mile road and with commercial uses beyond that. To the south, to the southern portion of the site is abutted by residential uses and also Millstone River. To the west, portion of the site has a solar field, and beyond that is office uses and other uses in the RO zone. So, moving into the site, today on the northeast corner of the site is data center number 1 that was previously approved, which has an area of 360,031 square feet. Along the southern portion of the site, there is an auxiliary maintenance building, which is in the rear of the DC1 building. To the west of the DC1 building, which is shown in Exhibit A1, there's an area covered in snow that was prior office building that has since been demolished. And then just south of the prior office building, there's a large parking lot which used to service the site. The site is also bisected by the Millstone River, which cuts through the northern portion along Princeton Hightstown Road, and then out to the southeast portion where there's some solar fields as well. And then on the western portion of the site, there's a large solar field, which is between where the residents are, just beyond our property, and you have the solar field, and then there's a large wooded area, wetland buffers, stream corridor, and other environmentally sensitive areas that separates what we're developing today. The stormwater management facilities on site today just consist of stormwater inlets and conveyance pipes, which discharge into the Millstone River, which is in the center of the site. And there's no stormwater management basins existing today on the site. So that's all I've got for sure.
Can you describe what the next exhibit you have, hand out the reduced copies and also mark it?
Sure. So my next exhibit I'm going to hand out is the overall site plan exhibit that's at 50 scale. I'll mark A2. And this exhibit will focus in on where we're proposing development, where I mentioned before, where it'd be just west of the existing data center building. So this is Exhibit A2, and this is a colorized site plan that was part of our application package with the landscaping superimposed. And again, north is to the top of the page for your reference. So what you see in front of you is our proposed, the majority of our proposed improvements showing a two-story data center which consists of a total gross floor area of approximately 272,020 square feet with one floor area of 135,060 square feet. So that's shown in the center of the page. And then we're also proposing a 27,000 square foot electrical substation, which is tucked in the rear of the property, next to the existing data center building and just south of the data center 2 building. So with this, we are requesting a few variances, as mentioned before. So the first variance I'll highlight is a parking or minimum front yard landscape buffer where 175 feet is required, and we're proposing 124 feet. So the northwest corner of the site, we have a parking setback of 125 feet as measured from Princeton Heights Town Road. I'm sorry. 118.5 feet, sorry. So we're proposing 118.5 feet from Favreau parking to Princeton Heights Town Road. And additionally, we are proposing to extend the fence that is being constructed as part of the Data Center 1 project. That is 8 feet high. It's a 8-foot-high secure perimeter fence in the front yard. The applicant did receive relief for the placement of that security fence as part of the DC1 project, and we're just extending it along the Data Center 2 building. So continue from Data Center 1 in the northeast corner of the property along the front, Princeton Heights Town frontage, and we'll terminate the northwest corner of the building, and then would go around into the rear of the site as well. Additionally, for this proposed building, we are requesting a building height variance. So building height of 55.64 feet tall on roof mechanical equipment, which reaches a maximum of 76.31 feet tall at its highest point, where 55 feet is permitted for building height and 70 feet is permitted for the roof mechanical equipment. So we're requesting a variance for building height and mechanical equipment.
And those will be shown in greater detail with architect later this evening.
That's correct. Sure. Yes, just one last thing to highlight with this proposed building. It is conforming with setbacks from front yard, side yard, rear yard setbacks.
So going back to A1, before we get to site circulation and site circulation, lighting, and stormwater, this is A3? Correct. Do we have reduced copies of this one? Or?
Do not have it.
Okay.
I can bring it.
Sure. So we need to look at A. Yeah.
Just describe what A3 is.
Sure. So this is exhibit A3, it's overall site plan exhibit at 200 scale, and it's dated November 21st, 2025. And again, this is the top of the page for your reference. So
A2 is at 50 scale.
yes,
So
this one's at 200 scale.
it's showing where these surrounding area.
Correct. So again, the site is shown in the center of the page, and it just shows the surrounding area. To the south, you see all the residential, I think actually.
If you could walk through the distance from all the different locations that you described before, and we'll rotate it and show it to the public as well.
I'm sorry, it's jumping together.
So we're going to do the board first, Madam White, and then we'll switch. All right, good. Thank you. Next time we'll bring you to work.
So yes, the data center 1 building on the western side of the site today, the setback for the resident to the south, the middle, I guess the southern property line is approximately 740 feet from that. Our data center 2 building is set back 1,984 feet to the residence of Windsor Drive, which is also within that separated with the solar field, which is approximately 850 feet wide, and then there's an existing 800-foot wide vegetative buffer between the solar field and our proposed development. And with that, we're also proposing a 100-foot wide landscape buffer consisting of evergreen trees and other types of trees that help screen the data center building as well. Our proposed substation located just south of the DC2 building, is set at 745 feet from the closest residence. So it's 5 feet further set back than the existing data center 1 from that residence. And then the substation is set back, so this proposed substation is also set back 1,200 feet from 1 mile road and is separated from, in between that buffer with the existing data center building and also vegetation screening along 1 mile road.
And then could you, Ryan, could you rotate all of this in and back and go through one more time?
Okay. So the data center 1 building on the northeast corner of the site, separated 740 feet, measured from the southwest corner of the building to the closest resident. The data center 2 building, measured from the southwest corner of the building to the closest resident on the western property line, is 1,984 feet. And again, separated with the solar field, it's 850 feet wide. And then from the solar field to the building is 800 feet, consisting of 800 feet of vegetation. The substation we're proposing in the rear of the site is set back 745 feet, measured to the closest property or residential property on the southern property line. And the last thing I said was this substation is set back 1,200 feet from 1 mile road extension and is buffered with the existing data center building and vegetative buffer.
Mr. Coughlin, I just figured it would be good to show a little bit of the distance to the neighboring property line. And if you could rotate the back of the site, so particularly storm basins, traffic, circulation, also lighting.
Sure. So circulation on the site, we are maintaining the 2 existing driveway locations. So we are utilizing the 1 mile road driveway located in the northeast corner of the site that fronts near the data center 1 building. And the second driveway on 1 mile road, we're maintaining that location, but we're closing it off for the data center use, and this would be utilized for the JCP&L substation in the rear of the property. So it's just a maintenance driveway for that substation. It's in the same location where there's a driveway today. And then for the Princeton Hightstown Road driveway located in the northwest corner of the site, we'll be maintaining that driveway without any improvements. Similarly, for circulation on site, there is full circulation around each building proposed. So there is a 24-foot wide, so data center 1 will have and maintain the existing circulation around the building. And then data center 2 will have full drive aisle circulation around the building as well. For the drive aisles, they range from 24 feet to 30 feet. So we have a 24-foot wide drive aisle at the top of the site, or the northern side of the data center 2 building, with parking abutting it. And we also have a 26-foot wide drive aisle on the eastern side of the data center 2 building, and there's parking in between the 2 buildings proposed from those aisles. And then along the rear of the development, we're proposing a 30-foot wide access drive as well. And both DC1 and DC2 have interconnected drive aisles. The site has been designed for circulation of large trucks, so WD-67 can circulate around the site, and fire trucks can also circulate around the site. And we have submitted those truck turning plans as part of our application. We have proposed trash enclosures proposed in the southwest corner of the data center 2 building, and we're maintaining the existing trash enclosure for the DC1 building as well. So site delivery of the trucks, unlike typical industrial uses, there are limited deliveries associated with this type of development, including mail and data haul equipment. Therefore, the proposed loading spaces are sufficient to support the project. The W67 will frequently enter the site and utilize the access around the current site. As a result, we are requesting a waiver for the number of loading spaces proposed, where 19 are required between the 2 buildings, but we are proposing 4 loading spaces, so 2 for each building, and that requires a waiver. Moving on to parking, so similarly, we are requesting a waiver for the number of parking spaces on the site, where 740 spaces are required for the township code, and we're proposing 182 spaces for the 2 buildings. And our traffic expert can testify to the number of spaces as well. With the proposed data center 2 building, we do have 7 ADA compliant spaces, 3 of which are van accessible, and then we're also providing 18 electric vehicle charging stations for the building as well, in addition to what was approved previously for the data center 1 building. All right, so moving on to drainage and stormwater management. So the site is considered a major development from the NJDEP criteria. We have submitted and received an individual permit and verification for flood hazard and stormwater review from the NJDEP. And we also have submitted and received no further technical comments from the DRCC for our stormwater management design. So to walk you through stormwater management on the site, we are reducing impervious coverage for the overall development. So with that, there are 3 criteria that the NJDEP reviews. Water quality. So water quality we have addressed as we're reducing total impervious coverage on the site and reducing motor vehicle surfaces. So therefore the water quality on the site leaving and proposed will meet that requirement. In addition, we will also propose a large constructed wetland stormwater best management practice, so the stormwater basin in the rear of the site, which provides further total suspended solid removal as well to enhance the water quality leaving the site beyond what's required. The NJDP also looks at water quantity, so how much flow is leaving your site. So we meet that requirement by proposing a constructed wetland basin in the rear of the site by attenuating the flows for storms that the NJDP regulates, which includes a water quality design storm, which is a smaller storm, but that's what it requires design to, and then up to the year 2100. So the DEP requires us to design our facility to meet the 100-year storm intensity in the year 2100. So it's beyond what the storm would be today. It's future projections as well. And then for groundwater recharge, we meet that criteria by reducing impervious coverage of the site. So we will not have a deficit for how much recharge is provided. And then for green infrastructure, on top of that, we do have the constructed wetland, which meets the water quantity requirement for green infrastructure for storm management practices. With that, we are requesting a waiver, however, for the shape of the basin in the rear of the site. So where we position on the basin in the rear of the site is tucked between behind the two proposed buildings. And additionally, there is wetlands, DRCC stream corridor, floodplains, and such. So what we're left with is the shape of the basin, and that's why we're proposing that inside the basin there are different elevations and shapes proposed to meet the constructed wetland criteria, such as a low marsh zone, a high marsh zone, and also a permanent pond elevation as well. And there will be landscaping throughout that basin proposed. Additionally, we are requesting a waiver for the type of stormwater conveyance pipe we're proposing. We're proposing an HDP pipe where the township code requires RCP, reinforced concrete pipe. HDP pipe can handle loads of trucks on site, and additionally, all the HDP is proposed within the site and not within the township right away as well. And then the last thing I want to note for utilities, this topic is utilities. So we are proposing a substation for the property as mentioned before. We anticipate, but there still hasn't been a final time from JCP&L that will require overhead wires to service that substation, likely coming from 1 Mile Road extension, which requires a waiver. Okay. So moving on to lighting and landscaping. So for lighting of the site, we are proposing an LED lighting package that are dark sky compliant. We are requesting a waiver for having building mounted lights proposed along the western elevation, the southern elevation, and that's for provide safety for sidewalks and pedestrians utilizing sidewalks and not have extra area lights in that area, and also in the rear of the data center for security purposes. With that, though, we are compliant with the township requirements for the lighting levels on site by providing the LED lighting package, and the temperature of the lights will also be 4,000 Kelvin as well, which is a soft color for security and fits in with an area as well.
Can you confirm, Mr. Conlon, that there will not be light spillover onto residential properties? I think you walked us through some properties are 700 to 1,000 plus feet away. I just want to confirm to the board that there will be no spillover.
Correct. There will be no spillover proposed. There are shields on the back of the lights, as well as with the new LED lights. The LEDs really just project forward. The from older style halogen. They spill more, but with new LED, they don't provide that foot candle spill. Alright, moving on to landscaping. So we are providing a pretty substantial landscape package, as you can see, throughout the site, especially along the western side of the Data Center 2 building. We're proposing the good majority to be approximately 100 feet wide landscaping. So with that, we are removing some existing trees due to the site being previously developed, and we're proposing the footprint today. So some trees on site will be removed, so we have 44 trees. And we're requesting relief for our tree replacement due to the location of the trees we're proposing. So the replacement requirement requires that the portion of the replacement trees be within 75 feet of the building envelope or the perimeter of the building. We are proposing throughout the site, and with data centers, there's a lot of utilities and also security considerations that we had to make in placing the trees. So we're requesting it throughout the sides to provide an enhanced buffer for the residents, and also along for beyond 75 feet. So with that, enhancing the front buffer along Windsor Road. The Data Center 1 improvements propose a double row of street trees. We're also filling in those double row street trees by providing landscape beds with shrubs and double staggered evergreen trees to buffer from that right away. And yeah, so as part of the replacement trees, we will agree to meet the township standard, so we will not request a waiver for the size of the tree, so we'll propose 4-inch caliber trees rather than 3-inch caliber trees as well. Additionally, we do have trees and landscaping proposed at the intersection of 1 Mile Road extension. And then, as I mentioned before, within the constructed wetland, there's some in and out of ground cover and other types of plantings proposed in that basin as well.
Is it correct that we're proposing 2,608 shrubs, ornamental grasses, ornamental perennials?
That's correct. That's correct. And well, with that, I just want to close out by saying we are requesting a waiver for the types of plants within the constructed wetland basin. That's due to meeting the NJDP criteria. We have to propose a certain type of plant mix within that basin footprint. So we're requesting that waiver. I think that's it. Yeah.
I have nothing further from Mr. Councilman on direct for engineering.
So you're the full testimony on the landscaping? I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay. So what impact will the plantings have with respect to visibility of the substation from 1 Mile Road and the intersection? I know it is located far back. I want to express again an answer to that.
Sure. So we do have existing vegetation. There is existing buffer from 1 Mile Road. The building is tucked behind, or the substation is tucked behind the Data Center 2 building. The drive aisle is also being reduced in that area, connecting to 1 Mile Road. So the view shed will be much smaller, and we are proposing some additional plantings in that southwest corner where we can. We are limited due to JCP&L requirements for overhead wires in that substation, but it is set back substantially from 1 Mile Road.
Also makes sense that if Mr. Dobrovolsky has any further comments or questions, that he offer them at this point.
Can you hear me? I can speak loud. So I think I have to be sworn in.
Yeah. Mr. Douglas, please raise your right hand. Tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
State your name, spell your last name, professional affiliation for the record, for landscape plan.
Dan Dobrovolsky, landscape architect for the board. I did have a report right now based upon the testimony that's been given so far. I have a couple of things to offer. First is that the testimony about the 75, the trees being within 75 feet of the building, that was a bit off. It's not, the requirement is not that the replacement trees all have to be within 75 feet of the building. The requirement is that there's a separate ordinance requirement that for large buildings, there has to be a certain number of trees within 75 feet of the building. And those trees have to be 4-inch caliber size. So it may be that they can meet that by increasing the size of the trees. It's not that all the replacements have to be close to the building. So that there may not be a waiver necessary for that if they increase the size of the trees as they indicated for that aspect of it. I did have in my report a comment that there is a requirement that the buffer trees be at 8 to 10 foot height, whereas 6 to 8 was proposed. And I didn't hear if they were going to increase the size of those to avoid the potential for a waiver in that.
We can comply.
So I think that corrects those two things. As kind of was alluded to in the testimony, there is a tremendous distance between the proposed improvements and, in fact, the previous improvements that have been replaced by some of these improvements from to residential areas and the existing vegetative buffer, which is measuring at probably its narrowest point, about 500 feet of vegetation, is substantial. And that, in combination with what they're proposing, should provide ample buffering relative to what the township code suggests. It may be that if you stand there and look really hard, you'll be able to see something, but it's substantially distant from those areas, and from a visual buffering point of view, it meets the criteria of your township code. Along 571 and 1 Mile Road, the public view from public streets, they are adding a buffer along 571, which is above and beyond what they did with Phase 1, and they're extending it all the way across the area of Phase 1 to better address buffering of the buildings from the public streets. Different than Phase 1, the cooling portion of this building, the second building, is located in the back of the building, and therefore the building screens that. In Phase 1, if you recall, there was actually a wall constructed to screen that. So that's not necessary with this one because the building does that, and then the substantial distance to the residential area addresses that from the backside. And likewise, with 1 Mile Road, there's a substantial distance such that it's so far away that there's a little bit of landscape near 1 Mile Road. It screens any view of the substation that's being proposed. So I think that addresses the questions up to this point. Are there any questions for me?
Anything else from the professionals?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Rick. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name, and professional association for the record, so that we hear.
Mark Rasimowitz, spelled Rasimowicz. I'm a professional engineer, licensed in New Jersey, and I'm the planning board engineer. I have some stormwater questions from my report. Sorry, how's that? I did have some questions regarding the stormwater. I don't know if you had a chance to see any of the comments in my review letter.
Why don't you just go through board response?
If it's okay with the board, we'll respond to the questions.
Particularly with regard to green infrastructure, are you requesting a waiver or variance from the green infrastructure requirements? And your constructed wetland area?
No. We do have a DEP permit for stormwater review for that truck well in the back, and it does meet the green infrastructure requirement for water quantity for the meter development.
Okay, because I thought you asked for a waiver regarding green infrastructure. No,
We're just going to waiver for the shape.
just a shape. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. You did ask for a waiver with regard to ADS piping. The requirement is RCP pipe. I refer to the board in that matter. Typically, the stormwater structures would be precast concrete, and that can be utilized with ADS piping. That would be referred to the board.
Do you find their proposed design there agreeable from your general standards for this type of facility?
Yes, my recommendation would be that the all stormwater structures are precast concrete. Piping can be utilized with ADS piping. However, any piping into and out of your stormwater basin should be RCP pipe.
We can agree to that.
Thank you. You did mention about truck circulation and WB 67. I did find a conflict with regard to the left turn to 1 mile road extension. Did you have an opportunity to look at that?
Yes. The frequency of the trucks making or entering into the site for W67 are very infrequent. The typical truck size on the site, once a tenant is utilizing it, is a box truck. So, my understanding, QTS's operations and other facilities, they do not expect the large trucks frequenting the site, so frequenting the site.
No traffic in here?
Yes, sir.
I believe your testimony indicated that WB 67s were the trucks that were going to be utilizing the site. So I understand what you're saying now. However, I'd still like to see the radius adjusted to provide the adequate turning radius that would be necessary.
Yeah. We can make the W67 truck and utilize the Princeton Heights Sound Road driveway with the traffic signal and make that turn. If we can't make an adjustment on 1 mile road extension, so we can look into it.
Thank you. Can you give any other comments or any concerns with my stormwater comments?
I don't believe so. If you want to go through any particular points, we can either respond or address some of these comments or all these comments.
I'm agreeable that, as long as you're agreeable to them, I touched on my comment that was a concern.
Those are primarily technical, so if you could just indicate if they work or if you need to get back on them.
My last comment would be with regard to the frontages. Are you proposing concrete curb along all frontages, and are you proposing sidewalks? What are you proposing along the frontages?
As part of the current proposal, we do not show improvements. Since we're not utilizing or going beyond the property lines for the proposed improvements. And the Data Center 1 project was approved by the county and by the board previously with the improvements shown along that road. That's why we didn't propose anything. And the Data Center 2 building is further away from the 1 mile road. So, and then the previously approved building, so we did not propose those improvements.
Will you be going to Mercer County? planning board for approval of this application?
And if we were so fortunate to get approved, yes, we would apply.
I don't have anything else at this time.
Anything else from any board? I have one question. You said the power lines going into the substation will be elevated, they'll connect the 1 mile road. Will there be any change in the appearance along 1 mile road with this power line? Would possibly be improved or anything like that? I'm sorry. Could you hear me?
Yeah.
I asked if power lines along 1 mile road will be increased in capacity, feed into the substation, and whether that, if they are, whether that would be visible.
It's something we can look to. I do not have an answer, but we can look into that next one.
Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, one question. What's the reduction in impervious coverage? You alluded to it. What's the number?
Yeah, so to verify, so I believe it was a reduction from 1,010,592 square feet to 999,267 square feet. Is that correct?
Correct. So it's a little over 10,000 square feet of reduction.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just two questions on the direct testimony. Again, Ed Snipes with Burgess Associates. I'm actually swearing you didn't swear me in for this part. No, it's okay. With regard to the proposed number of parking spaces, I think you testified you needed 740 or 640? I think it was 640 by my count. You say 740? I still prefer to mention that. If you could just confirm that. Thank you.
Just give us a moment. We'll take it. Thank you.
You said 740.
740 spaces are required.
Okay, that's something we may want to check. Okay, thank you. With regard to the lighting plan, you said your lighting is conforming. We did note in our review that we found some areas that were above the 1 foot candle average. Is that something you're requesting deviation from, or looking to comply?
We're looking to comply.
Okay, thank you. No further questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I have a question for you, Ed. It was 4,000 Kelvin. Is that for the outdoor lighting? Is that normal? Seems very cold.
It starts to get into the colder spectrum. 3,500 Kelvin is what we typically look for. So if that's something, usually they are able to make that adjustment. So
Can you do that? 3,500?
Yes.
With respect to the request, we can certainly go through Mr. Rasmussen' report. I believe we comply, but I would like the engineer to have a few minutes to look at the report and get back to the report. That's okay.
Yes. You can
You want to
continue?
Yeah, if I,
You want to move on?
you move on or break, whatever you guys, I can really move on. I'm ready to go.
Should move to your next.
Perfect.
Please.
All right. Okay, well, then.
Yes, sir, please raise your right hand, I'll swear you in. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Just state your name, spelling your last name, professional affiliation for the record.
My name is Paul Going, the last name is G-O-I-N-G, just like the word going. I am the chief engineer for traffic planning and design, or TPD, at 30 Independence Boulevard in Warren, New Jersey. I am a 1993 graduate of Cooper Union for the Advancement of Science and Art, where I earned a bachelor's in engineering degree in civil engineering. Since that time, I've been working as a traffic and transportation engineer, a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, and I've been accepted as a traffic expert in numerous land sports around the state, including nearby Princeton, Hamilton, and Montgomery.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Goldman, if you could, in the narrative, enter a few things. One, the traffic report you submitted, explain the analysis that you went through, describe the site access, the justifications for the parking, generally the drive aisles, egress, and the peak trip generation.
Sure. My office prepared a letter dated December 18, 2025, and prior to TPD's involvement in the project, Dynamic Traffic, another firm, prepared a traffic impact statement, which is dated February 11, 2025. So in my letter, I reviewed the Dynamic report, compared it to industry standards, evaluated it for some new standards that have come out over the past year. Generally, their report is prepared for industry standards, very typical. The trip generation that they calculated, however, was based on a slightly smaller building. In addition, when they calculated the trip generation, they were using the 11th edition of a publication called Trip Generation that's put out by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, or ITE. And since that time, in August of last year, after they had done the report, the 12th edition, the newer edition, came out. So we compared the two. So in Dynamics calculations, in the weekday morning peak hour, they calculated an additional 29 peak hour trips due to the proposed DC2 building. And in the weekday evening peak hour, they calculated 23 peak hour trips. Our calculation was that 31 additional trips would be generated in the morning peak hour. So 31 versus the 29 they had calculated. And we calculated 29 weekday evening peak hour trips versus the 23 they had calculated. NJDOT does not consider an increase of fewer than 100 peak hour trips to be significant. So whether we're at the 29 to 31 trips or the 23 to 29 trips, it's not a significant volume of traffic being generated. Now, typically that's as far as we might analyze from a traffic point of view when we find so few trips. And as the board may know, and some members of the public may know, data centers are known as very low trip generator. However, Dynamic Traffic did do some additional detailed traffic investigation analysis. So to do that, they collected traffic data at the site in January 2025. DC1 was still under construction, not operating at that time. So they took into account traffic that would be generated by DC1 using the ITE, as well as background traffic growth and traffic from other specific projects in the area. That's the future without the project condition, which we also call the no-go condition. And they analyzed that with a program called Synchro, which gives us an operational analysis of the traffic flow. Then they added the phase 2 traffic to the network, analyzed the future with the project. So what they found was that the levels of service, and we typically level of service in terms of traffic flow. Level of service ranges from A to F, with A being the best, F being the worst, and A, B, and C being good. So what we found, or what Dynamic found, and I concur with, is that the traffic operations would be level of service C or better. It was really a mix of A and C, and there were no changes in level of service between the no-build condition and the build condition. So that sort of confirms the theory that so few trips aren't really going to affect traffic, but it confirms it in a firmer way. Noting that they did analyze slightly fewer trips than we found with calculations for the current edition of ITE and with the currently proposed square footage, with the good levels of service that we found, based on my review of their analyses and findings, that small number of additional site-generated trips would have no material change on the results. So we concluded that the project would not have an impact on area traffic. In terms of the parking, again, it was previously stated in Mr. Kunstman's testimony, 182 proposed parking stalls, 740 required parking stalls. So the parking requirement is 1 per 1,000 square feet for a wholesale establishment or industrial building, plus 1 to 200 square feet of office space within the building. So, from my point of view, wholesale establishment or industrial building is a pretty broad range of types of uses. Obviously, with the little amount of traffic that's generated by the project, it doesn't need 730 parking stalls. And in Dynamics report, they had some numbers that they had provided, which were based on numbers QTS gave them. The numbers QTS gave you tonight are a little bit different. A greater number of employees are expected. Essentially, again, and this was in Ryan's testimony, 20 to 25 QTS employees, and then 70 to 80 customer employees. So the 70 to 80 is higher than was projected in the dynamic report. In addition to those, we could have about 10 visitors on site at any time. That gives us a total of 100 to 115 persons at the site. So the 182 stalls that are proposed does require a design waiver, but it would be more than sufficient for the needs of the project. Just going back to the circulation, I was speaking with a QTS representative while Mr. Kunstman was testifying, and the tractor trailers can be limited to the principal accounts down the driveway. So they issued with the tracking of the WD-67 at 1 mile road extension would be mitigating in that sense.
I have nothing further from Mr. Bill. I would open the board questions.
Yeah, just on parking, so who else do you have that is visits the site, visitors, contractors, anyone besides the employees that might be on parking?
Well, the visitors to the site could include things like deliveries, prospective tenants in the United States. There's not that many visitors once the spaces are occupied.
And I'm happy to have Mr. LaCosta.
You understand the question?
Understood, happy to. If after you're done with the show, I'll ask Mr. LaCosta to answer that question there, if that's okay. Thank you.
We're talking about a buffer between 115 and 182, it's like 67. Is that really necessary?
Well, you always have, so the estimates are based on shift work generally. There is a possibility that certain shifts are going to overlap, or there'll be like a required meeting that more people will need to attend.
Any questions from the board or the professionals? Okay.
Sure, I'll have Mr. LaCosta.
So while you're switching witnesses, one question I would like to revisit, I mean, there's a start myself, but let me raise it now. So sidewalks on 1 mile road, something that you might look at. That is an area that we have need, and this might be a way to get a jump on that.
So my next witness is
Swear to raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please state your name, spelling your last name, and professional affiliation or relationship to the
Robert LaCosta, LaCosta,
I'm a senior director with QTS Data Centers. So Mayor and Board, just to add a little clarity to the number of people at the job site. QTS is a landlord. We lease the white space out to our tenants. Our staff is a very stable staff. We have approximately 25 QTSers that will reside at this facility. That's operations, accounting, sales, marketing, and a few other strategic leaders. The rest of that staff is completely dependent on the tenant or tenants that take this space. Whether they operate with 3 people or 20 people, that is up to them and how they operate their business. On average, we see our tenants have 4 to 5 full-time people per floor. So when we do our calculations, we're calculating on Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., with a maximum number of tenants in this building, being multiple. Since we haven't gotten to a place where we can lease yet, we don't know if we're going to have 1 tenant or 8 tenants.
So you can't speculate on what the parking requirement would be?
We can based on the maximum number of data halls we have in the building, because we can't have more clients than we have space.
Would that be 182 or would it be a smaller number?
It's closer to 100. It's very close. We're using our historical data from other facilities to operate with tenants, but we're going to average that number.
All right, so if we went to preserve as much green as possible, what would you be comfortable with?
Let us get back to that.
Okay.
Yeah, we understand that. Thanks.
Okay, maybe open the exam and bank parking or something like that, if that's what you're trying to. If you could address the mayor's question about sidewalk curving along 1 mile road.
Yeah, we can explore. We'll take a look at it and see what we can do if we'll offer some suggestions.
Thank you. Nothing further from Mr. Lucasa.
Okay. Anybody here? Anybody here? Okay, good.
So my next witness is Mr. Eric Scott, the architect, AIA. Please state your name, spelling, and last name, professional affiliation.
Eric Scott, S-C-O-T-T. I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey, for over 13 years. I have a master's in architecture, and I have testified in front of a New Jersey board and certified as an expert.
That's fine.
So you're second.
He's also licensed in 18 states as well. That makes a difference.
We don't care about
I know. He was asked telling me about that, so I don't think you're sure. But, Mr. Scott, if you could, in the narrative, I know you have a number of exhibits to share, and you have reduced 8 by 11 prints, I think?
Yes, actually.
I don't know if you could just totally pass it out. So, if you could you walk the board through each one of them, so we'll just mark it all.
A4 is a submission of a certain elevation, photographs.
So A4 is a package of reduced and also full-size exhibit poster board that shows street view from, the first page is West Windsor going toward East Windsor, view 130. Next page. Also a kind of like an elevated aerial rendering of the site, building 1, building 2. Next sheet is ground level with some trees that 60 could have a couple years projection of what trees will look like on the site. Next sheet will be a color rendering on Windsor Road 571. Next sheet. And this is floor plans for the building. First floor that has the generator chillers on the ground level, and the next to the second floor, and rooftop mechanical. And then a small section, cross section of the building. So that an elevation. And the board has collectively 8 floor, that's a good council.
8 floors constitutes 9 sheets, as described by applicants and grant.
And then a few ones around. So Ryan, if you could face that very public, it's the board members have the information.
So the first drawing here is really kind of a representation of what we're trying to project as the building design. It's obviously a rendering, so things are not exactly perfect. Mostly with vegetation that Bowler has presented, it is going to be a little bit different. But we do want to try to show what the building's going to look like from the street level, and do show some trees, but we do limit it so we can see what we're trying to present for the building. These two views show the relationship to the surrounding sites across Princeton Heights on the road. The building is, as we said, the 55.64 feet in height, and to the mechanical, which is fully screened by a screened louver, is 76.31 feet. If we go to the next one. I want to focus more now on the building. This is just a relationship view. The next sheet, I believe, is the birds. We call it a bird's eye view. We show it in relationship to the existing DC1 building that you can see on site today. The top view shows DC1 on the left and our new proposed DC2 building on the right. The DC2 building is somewhat of a QTS standard. However, knowing how important Princeton Heights on Road is to the town and community, we were asked to try to enhance the facade. So instead of looking like a data center or a warehouse in a building, we've incorporated more metal panel, a lot of glass curtain wall along the front. So it is mimicking an office building. So as you drive by, you're not going to think, oh, it's a flat concrete warehouse. And then that bottom view shows more of a view of just the DC2 building from above. Again, limiting the trees in front, but then showing that glass and metal panel facade as well. The next board, I think goes out of order in the book. This, we kind of removed the trees so you can see the view of the building from more of a ground level of what somebody would visually see driving by. The fence we're continuing, as was mentioned by Bowler, the continuation of what's there today. We're doing the exact same thing that was previously approved. And then the view of the glass metal panel and that screen wall shielding the mechanical equipment that is on the roof. Yeah, that's not in the book.
Yeah. So this is not in the book, so Ryan, if you show it before, and then show the public. This is, what would you describe this? Outline of proposed building?
Yeah, it's difficult to sort of show what the building's going to look like from the residential neighborhoods. So we have one of the views, and that you turn towards.
Minutes holder.
Yeah, this view is along Millmore Drive, looking northeast. So in the field that's behind the residential neighborhood, into that tree, that existing tree buffer, we are dotting in a red dotted line where this building is, even though, as was testified previously, it's hundreds of feet away. We do want to sort of accurately represent the size of the building for the board. And then our other view, similar to what we're doing here on Willmore, is on Dutch Neck Road. This is again from that street, looking beyond, and if you can see the dotted line representing the building, the DC2 building.
Just want to interrupt for a second. That's summertime. Winter time, there's building, some trees that are visible. Thank you.
We actually drove by before the meeting here and kind of went in that back area, and because of the density of the tree, and even though a few of them are deciduous, you cannot see the existing DC1 building, so DC2 would be a comparable comparison.
So if you could just repeat, what you just described about the 8586 to the public, Matt, would you spit it to the public? So you're fine, just hold that.
Yeah, so both A5 and A6 are a representative view, just depicting, it's hard to see from far away, but there is a dotted red line of the outline of the DC2 building. Because you can't sort of show what it's going to look like, you want to represent the size of it behind that tree and buffer. And that's on both buildings from both Dutch Neck Road and Willmore Drive. Thank you.
And then going back to the package, page 5 of A4, 5 or 6 pages. Yeah, no, sheet 4. All right, sheet 4, we're going to go back to the plans. So, do we have the record of
We do have this. This is just the one that the sheet that we flipped over. I'll just touch on it. We did want to kind of show one mature tree shown. The intention from the landscaping plan is to kind of shield the building as much as possible. So there will be a future where there'll be more vegetation planted and obviously growing. So we don't want to kind of confuse things and not show the buildings. This is more of a representation of what it might look like in the future.
Ryan, if you can get these floor plans, please. First level. Yes.
Yeah, this first plan view represents the first floor of the building. A portion of this was described. The right side of the building shows the office, QTS office, as well as any tenant office space, as well as the loading dock and main entry. Moving into the center portion of the building is where you have your data center, which is basically a large white space. The red rows represent a potential rack layout, a cabinet layout of a future customer or customers. We don't know what it is, so we kind of represented the maximum that would be in there. And then on the far left side of the building is more back-of-house maintenance for facility operations, QTS staff that service the building. And then on the plan south is we have the generator yard and equipment yard where we have mechanical equipment, the generators on the furthest portion south, transformers as you get close, and then UPS pods that are near the building, and then that feeds the data. Next one. The next sheet is the second floor plan. Second floor is very similar to the first floor. Again, more office space on the right side. A lot of the areas of the tenant, whether it's storage area or office space, is under the tenants. The data hall repeats the same thing on the second floor and on the first. And then again, a back of house with facility operations and storage for the left side of the building. The next floor plan is the roof plan. What we're depicting here on the top plan is the kind of the architectural layout of the roof. So we have mechanical chillers towards the plan north. Below that is some thermal storage water tanks, part of that closed loop system. And then the lower portion plan represents just the area that the mechanical equipment takes up versus the roof area, just for a clarity of how much it actually is taking up on that roof. Turn the booklet 2 pages, just because they have the elevation more important for the city. So this next sheet shows our building elevations. The top view is along Prince Maxtown Road. The next view below that is at equipment yard with the generators. Both of those we have a mechanical equipment screen. It's graphically represented a little bit darker here, only because it's got movers and lines, but in reality it's going to appear like the renderings in that more lighter sort of silver metallic view. And on all the facades, apart from the generator facade, we have metal panel and glass, and the equipment is shielded on all 4 sides, so no side is left to see that rooftop.
I have nothing further on the record, Mr. Scott. I'll open up the board of questions.
Any questions? Yes.
And with regard to the rooftop equipment area that's screened is on the upper building, is there any lighting that's going to be on all the time or anything of that nature in the upper equipment area?
There is lighting that's attached to the equipment, and it is directly related to maintenance of that equipment. I do believe it is on all the time. That is fully shielded from view with that screen wall.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
I'm just curious, data center 1 does not have all that on the roof, I think, does it?
I don't believe so.
So there is it?
It does not. It does not.
It doesn't. It's on the ground, or you want to come back? I don't want to delay it.
Yeah, you're still under oath.
So that PC1 building, when it was constructed, it does not have the structural capacity to carry this equipment. So in our previous application, when we requested the screen wall, that is because that electrical and mechanical equipment sits in the yard on ground level. So we would have tried to do it, but we can't do it with that structure.
Anybody else?
So if I could, I have my next witness, Mr. Joe Roscoe, from the Senate.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please state your name, spell your last name, and rest
It's Joseph Oresco, I go by Joe, but last name is Horesco. I am a mechanical engineer, graduated in 1999, Bachelor of Science. I'm also board certified by the Institute of Noise Control Engineers, which is the closest thing to a professional engineer on acoustics that you can possibly get.
And I'm assuming you testified in front of the zoning boards of the state of New Jersey. And qualified as an expert.
Always been qualified as an expert in those cases, yes.
All right, Mr. Oresco, we have an exhibit that we'll put up, but in the narrative, and again, please talk, there's very technical aspects of acoustical measurement and design, but if you could, for the lay person, walk us through your report, which I believe is dated January 8, 2026. Walk us through what you tested, where the locations you tested, what measurements were taken that were in compliance with, I believe, DC2 building sound requirements. Please walk us through that, and also with that chart, try to help us understand what decibel readings mean, because sometimes it's a little hard for us and the public to understand that.
Absolutely. I'll
You were the mark on A7?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm going to try to keep this as non-technical as possible, with just enough technicalities for me to be correct.
Correct.
So basically, we start with manufacturer sound data for all of the equipment. So right now, we're looking at chillers on the roof. The manufacturers test their equipment. They give us a full amount of sound that they're going to create. We then put it into an acoustical model that includes the size of the building, relevant structures, topography, and then that provides us with a calculation of how much sound will be received at various locations around the site. And so when we do that, we find that the sounds are below our requirements in specifications. With a maximum amount of chillers, there's also the potential for less chillers to operate, and in that condition, there's some also reduction. We've also measured ambient sound levels near the residents. In general, the sounds from the chillers will be at a level that's comparable to the existing ambient. And so we don't see that there's going to be a significant impact from these operations. As far as the generators, it's been testified already that they are exercised approximately once a month, but they do not run continuously. So for the generators, we review the sounds from 1 or 2 of them at a time. I believe I did 2 to be conservative. And they're well below the daytime limits. And since they don't operate regularly during the night, we don't really consider them daytime limits. But again, they're very, very much below the daytime limits at all locations. And in fact, below the daytime limits at most locations as well. Excuse me? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was. So I think high level, that's essentially the conclusion.
Walk us through the locations. I think there's 7 locations that you tested, what the numbers were, confirm they are in compliance with, I believe, East Windsor and DEP decibel regulations. No problem.
So the locations, the way our model works is we can select specific locations. We get a lot of information from those locations. We also generate maps that are less informed informational. But the 7 locations that you're talking about, they're all at nearby receivers. Location 1 is on that west side, just past the residence is just past the solar field. Locations 2 and 3 are to the south at the nearest houses to the south there. Location 4 is across 1 Mile Road, sort of to the southeast of the site. Location 5 is actually north of the solar field. Location 6 is the commercial building across from the site. And location 7 are the residences that are behind the shopping center north of the site. And so the sound levels that we're receiving at the worst case, which is all of the equipment operating together at their full capacity, ranges from the low upper 30s to low 40s, just about everywhere. And so on the board there, okay, so on the board, we are talking about sound levels that are in what's called this, we said 38 to low 40s, equivalent to generally quiet rural area. Inside your house is more equivalent to a refrigerator running. And again, that's comparable to the current quiet, late night ambient sound levels. And at location 7, it was a little higher, it was 45. We're still in that range.
But still in compliance with DEP and East Windsor noise regulations, is that correct?
That is correct. And then there is, again, that is at the maximum, at the turn down level, or the potential typical level that we understand to be the current or expected operations. There's approximately 2 to 3 decibel reduction. So we get even lower on our typical average day operating condition. For the generators, during the testing conditions, we are below 50 decibels. And that would, again, we're still in this, if you can see the board, apologize to the board here, the screen zone, where it's still in a quiet condition.
Again, just to emphasize, we are within compliance of NJDEP and East Windsor noise decibel regulations, that's correct?
That's correct.
8 times standard is 65 decibels.
That is correct.
And 9 times 50.
Correct.
Yes, so that's on the record.
Yes.
I don't think further on the record this is for us, so you definitely get the technical aspect of the requirements that I'm happy that we're up with.
If I may, you just testified that you had 2 studies, correct? You had the ambient level study and the propagation study.
Yes, they're both provided in the same report, but we do measure that.
So the ambient study, you're testifying as you got the 30s, low 40s?
The
Can you
ambient,
refer to which table that?
the ambient was provided in a chart.
What page of the report?
Page 9, and it's figure 4 from our report. That is the south, at the south, I apologize, I skipped. Page 8, figure 3 is at the north side of the site. And that is actually higher because we're closer to the road.
And I think your text explained the different variables here, the LAQ, the LA01 was not. Can you just explain each of those to the public and which one you're using for compliance?
I will do my best. Well, in terms of compliance, the ambient technically is not required. It's an absolute level. That's the way the noise limits are written. But the ambient was done to make sure that we look at potential impact and reducing that. So with the, it's where it gets a little tough, I apologize. The LEQ is essentially what we call an average, but it's the energy average, and it means that it's the total amount of sound divided by the time that the measurement was made. It's a little confusing, but we basically consider it an average. The L90 is the sound that is exceeded 90% of the time, which means it's the quietest 10% during that measurement period. So for an hour, it's your quietest 6 minutes. For 10 minutes, your quietest minute. And those are the numbers that we are generally comparing to.
The LA01?
And the LA1 is the sound that's exceeded 1% of the time. That's your truck pass, a really loud bang or something very short that only occurs for a short number of times as well. Because again, if it were to occur repeatedly, that number would be represent something like the LQ or something else. So
Your study was conducted in December, right?
The most recent study was December, yeah.
Does temperature have any effect? Where it would be colder, it would give you louder noises or quieter noises that you did?
Generally speaking, typically not a lot. There are some differences. I will say in terms of our ambient being done in the winter, it's generally quieter. There's less activity, there's less environmental sound, there's less insects, all of those other things. So really it's sort of the quieter potential period that I've measured here. But in terms of the sound emanating from the site, it would be roughly the same regardless.
And the propagation study, which is the second, the modeling, the prediction of what's going to happen. How many of the units were assumed to be operating during the modeling?
Yes, so in our, what I call our maximum case, there were 26 chillers.
Page 12.
Oh, page, what page? I was doing it by memory first, so it'll take a second. Page 4. Page 4, under equipment descriptions, towards the bottom of the page, you can see that there's 26 units, and then I described condition 1 includes all 26 at 100%, and condition 2 is based on approximately 60% build out with a slight turn down on the equipment.
And these are all the units in second phase, only the new building?
Correct.
Was there any modeling done for both buildings operating at the same time?
Yeah, well, we were not involved with building 1, but there was a report that had sound.
Okay, so there's a study for the individual building 1 and a study for the individual building too? Were they combined, or were they operating together?
If you could express, can you explain building 1, building 2, how those two different numbers add up? It's not 50 plus 50 equals 100. If you could help educate us.
Yeah, absolutely. So our model, I did not have all of the sounds from building 1, but we did look at the building study and added those sound levels to our own. And, you know, for some of the locations up to the south, they were predicting sound levels of the low 40s and upper 30s, just like we were. When you put those both together, let's say they're both 40 decibels, then you get a total of 43. So when I did look at them together in general, there's approximately a 2 decibel increase potentially, which is less than what most people can actually hear. We generally assume that 3 decibels increase would be what's the threshold of normal hearing on a change of the sound. But we're well below, even with the addition.
Are table 5 and 6 the results on page?
Those are, yes, table 5 and table 6 on page 6 are our results.
And you're testifying that you're in compliance with which number now?
Well, everywhere is in compliance.
The township number is 45, is that right? I do see numbers over 45 on the table.
Right, so the 1A condition is the chiller-only condition. That would be the nighttime limit. And there's also, location 6 is a commercial building, which would not be subjected to that same level. So the 45 would be at all for residentials, which is 1 through 5 and location 7. They're all low. They're all below 45 or 45 or below. And that is at the maximum. And then table...
Except location 2. 1B.
Well, the B is with the generators, and so that's for compared to daytime units.
And that's full operation, not test.
Well, it would be testing, but that would be compared to the 65 decibel limit, because that's the daytime, correct. Right, I know, it's a lot to digest here.
The one thing I think we didn't mention was there's a QTS operations. It's our understanding it's about chillers, only 85% of the chillers operate at any given time. It's not 100%, but we did model with
right,
100%.
I'm
being conservative with our calculation.
Absolutely, and I do apologize because I'm noting an error here. My table 6 said all chillers at 100%, but it's actually 87%. Yeah, it was 87%. Yeah, my apologies there. But the results are reflecting that condition.
Can we look at page 12?
Page 12. Page 12 is the sound contours.
Correct. It says maximum cooling is at 85%. And it says all different.
Okay, so this is assuming maximum number of
This is the worst case.
This is absolute worst case that we
So I see a row, I guess they're houses, not in the blue area, but in the dark green area, correct?
Right.
It's below there. And that is 55 less than 60. And so my question is that okay at night under our ordinance? Be able to less than 59?
So I'm gonna flip back a little bit to page 6 because that has a summary of some of the results that are on that property line, which includes this data. And the last line is comparing to the code. And you'll notice that there's an NA there. And that's because if these generators are operating during the nighttime hours, it's because there's a power outage. And they're exempt in that condition.
What is, I can't really read that from here, what is 65?
Sure, if you can rotate that back.
Yeah, sure. So 65 is generally normal speech. And, you know, what's shown here, it's a commercial area. We measure traffic along the road during the daytime hours. It's roughly around that 60, 65 range.
So it's nighttime, you close your windows and everything.
Well, if you close the windows, you drop 20 decibels right there, yeah.
Anybody else?
Did your study also look at vibration?
That's a great question, thanks. We did have a separate study that we measured vibrations specifically of the generators, since they were the ones that are on the ground. And during the operation of the generators, and I'm referencing a report that was dated December 17th. Still more, all right.
Mr. Russell, could you just repeat that, but also, just, Mark, I know we submitted it, but just for the board's edification, the report regarding vibrations, what letter you're talking about and what date it was?
Right, so the date was December 17th, 2025, and we, all right, now I get myself. I really thought I was shouting. All right, sorry everybody. So it details measurements that we made of generator operating on the one building. And specifically, we measured sounds and vibrations on the actual pad of the generator, vibrations on a curb of the interior traffic, excuse me, I get a road, I suppose, access way is the word I'm looking for. And what we found is that we were able to measure the vibrations of the generator on the pad. And I'm going to reference page 4, which is figure 2. And there's a reddish line, and that says location 2 generator curve. And you can see there's a period of time, that was all before 12:21 p.m., where the numbers go up and down, and then at around 12:21, that red line jumps up. And so that's the vibration right there at that generator. But what you can see is that the levels at all those other locations, which are again further away from that generator, still within the QTS site, didn't change. They're still within the ambient vibration levels. So even though we were able to measure the generator vibrations while the generator is operating right next to the generator, we were not able to measure it anywhere further. Similarly, I will note on figure 3 that there is a summary of sound measurements that were made across the street at what was our location 7. And it was very difficult to separate the sounds from the generator from the ambient sounds that were existing at that time. Essentially, they were almost entirely the same, but in our most conservative approach, we've attempted to reduce and back out the sound from the ambient to get an estimate of how much the generator was producing. And in a sense, the generator is less than 50 decibels.
How many generators are running in an inverter? All of them?
I would have to defer that, but a power outage.
This will cost us all, you ask that question, please?
Yeah, so the way our buildings are designed, we have what's called 5 nines. We are 99.99999% uptime. In the event of Superstorm Sandy, we are going to be running all but 2 generators at a time. Those 2 generators are called reserve lineup. In the event that we have a failed motor, failed alternator, we switch over. So of the 28, we'll never have more than 26 running.
So is that our sound testing on 26 generators running?
What I'm showed on this report was 1 generator.
Okay, so we don't know how loud it is.
No, the contours that were previously provided estimated how much it would be from all of the generators. And that, yeah, so that's also included. I just was speaking to this separate report.
Just one more, the substation that JCP now is going to put in, do you anticipate noise from that? And was that accounted for in the assessment?
That was beyond the scope of my study. The equipment there would be transformers that I would understand would be the only thing that would produce some sound. I don't have an analysis of that at this time.
There could be cooling fans.
There could be cooling fans too, but yeah, apologies, I have not reviewed that.
We did not receive the final building plans from JCL for the substation, so we're not able to.
Can we won't have that tonight, can we have information on that later?
Chairperson, we're months away from having design from JCP now. I would love to go faster with them, but it's JCP.
Okay. You can move on.
Thank you.
Tom Stearns, STEARNS, professional planner, Stearns Associates. I've testified previously before this board. I have over 35 years' experience. My license is currently valid.
So you were here during the first, last approval of 2023, is that correct?
Yes.
The floor is all yours, Mr. Stearns. You could take us through the variances and design waivers justifications that have been discussed by our professional.
Okay. First, I'll go through the materials I've reviewed. This is the study that I reviewed the RO ordinance, reviewed the entire application before the board, reviewed the engineer's drawings, architect's drawings, all the professional memos, reviewed previous historical master plans, reviewed planner's memo. Let me talk about the theme. This application presents the critical next step in expanding and modernizing the QTS existing facility and providing the infrastructure and land area for future development of the state-of-the-art data center complex. This Phase 3 application is part of QTS's commitment to East Windsor to create a state-of-the-art data center within the township. Yeah, I think the overall theme of this application is growing local business and supporting existing uses and businesses in the RO zone. As Mr. Wehrman testified, QTS wants to expand its business and grow here, wants to continue to operate this property as first-class data center. In light of this, I really need to stress that the granting of these variances is critical to their operation and to their future growth. Again, QTS wants to continue to operate in its inconspicuous manner like they have been for the last 12 or so years. They started here in 2014.
I can't hear too much.
I'll go through the variances in detail later. Okay, so for the grant, we're looking at all C2 variances here. The grant of a C2 is allowed under the MLUL. Again, undue hardship is not a requirement for the grant of the variance. What must be shown are really 5 prongs that relates to a specific piece of property. The purposes of the MLU would be advanced. That the variation can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good, and the benefits of the deviation will substantially outweigh any detriment, and the variance will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan or the zoning ordinance. Again, I can justify all the variances based on the C2 criteria where the proposal advances various purposes of the MLUL, and the benefits of the proposal outweigh the detriments. Again, the courts have directed boards when weighing the benefits and detriments to consider the benefits of the entire project, not just the benefits of the relief. So let me just go through the 5 prongs now real quick. So prong 1 relates to the specific piece of property. The C2 variances in question relate to this application and the Route 571 QTS site, 192 acres in Yarrow zone for proposed buildings and parking. The purpose of the MLUL would be advanced by a deviation of the zoning requirement. As the facts described above demonstrate, allowing the applicant to create a front yard setback for guardhouse and parking, higher building, mechanical equipment, secure perimeter fence in the front yard, promotes the following purposes of zoning in the MLUL. Paragraph A, to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in the state. Why? Again, the development is concentrated in an existing research office zone where there's an existing infrastructure. We're in the PA2 State Suburban Planning Area Zone. We're consistent with its goal to promote economic growth and development. This will provide for expansion of QTS and increased jobs and provide a vital expansion of data infrastructure and potential for further expansion of data infrastructure. And this is a creative design solution to expand the property, to provide QTS the ability so they can renovate the existing building and provide new data center facilities. Paragraph G of the MLUL to provide sufficient space and appropriate locations for a variety of agricultural, residential, rec, and commercial and industrial uses. Why? This deviation will allow QTS to grow their East Windsor campus and provide an appropriate state-of-the-art data center with distributed and redundant power and increased jobs. QTS is committed to making East Windsor a hub for data support services. This enables QTS to modernize and upgrade the existing data center campus and add a new state-of-the-art data center building to meet current market demands without disturbing any of the environmentally sensitive areas of the property. Paragraph H of the MLUL to encourage location and design of transportation routes which will promote the free flow of traffic while discouraging locations of such facilities and routes which would result in congestion or blight. Why? Data centers are not high traffic generators, as the traffic engineer testified. Again, as the testimony established, this use can be expanded with minimal impact on the local road system. The proposal will also provide a more efficient ingress, while maintaining vital site security. And finally, paragraph I of the MLUL, to promote a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques, good civic design and arrangements. Why? This is a unique and creative design solution that allows the township business to expand. A benefit of the variances regarding front yard setbacks allows for essential property security for the data center. Again, so the setback relief for most purposes A, G, H, and I of the MLUL. Let me go through the specific points to each one of the variances. So for the front yard setbacks, the front yard setback and landscape strip requirement on Princeton Heightstown Road, where 175 feet is required, and 124 feet is existing, was previously approved from the existing building area, and 118.5 feet is proposed from the reconfigured parking area, existing proposed data centers. Again, this pretty much matches what's existing that was approved in the DC1 application. Security fence. The proposed security fence is essential to protect the data center and prevent any unauthorized access to this secure facility. The data security starts with limiting the access of the data center to ensure that the facility will always maintain strict control over property access in accordance with QTS's most up-to-date security protocols. Again, the fence and security guardhouse are architecturally appropriate along the Princeton Heights Town Road corridor, and there's a substantial front yard landscape buffer that will adequately mitigate any detrimental impact. The property perimeter security fencing is an essential component of the data center security. Again, the applicant proposes substantial additional front yard landscape buffering to further mitigate any detrimental impact associated with the variance relief for the perimeter security fencing. Building height. 55 feet is the maximum height that's permitted in our zone for principal structure, and we're proposing 55.64 feet above the average grade elevation. Again, this is a de minimis increase. It's only like 7.68 inches. And then for the variance for building height of the mechanical equipment, again, the height limitation of mechanical equipment or a maximum height of 15 feet above the building height limitation. The applicable district is permitted, and above the building height in the RO zone, we're proposing 19.67 height above the building. So the building height is calculated from the average finished grade around the perimeter of the building to the highest point of the mechanical equipment is equal to 76.31 feet. Maximum building height in the district, including the mechanical equipment, is 70 feet plus 15 feet. I'm sorry, 55 feet plus 15 gives you 70 feet. Height of the building, the proposed building does not exceed the maximum height limit by 10 feet or 10%. Again, this is a slight increase of a little over 4 feet from the max allowed, and the rooftop mechanical equipment will be screened. Again, the height of the mechanical screen is the same as the mechanical equipment. The building and the mechanical equipment height deviations are necessary in order to provide necessary interior clearance for adequate airflow and cooling of the building and equipment, which is necessary to prevent damage to the equipment and promotes more efficient utilization of energy and electricity to the site, resulting in environmentally friendly design. Further, the rooftop equipment must be on a raised platform for air circulation and cooling purposes, and the same allows for direct access via a lift for easy maintenance. The rooftop equipment projects most of its noise upward through the exhaust fans. Couple that with our screen walls, and you can't hear the equipment from the ground standing 50 feet from the building. Okay, so problem number 3, that the variance can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. Again, the detriment must be substantial. Again, there's no negative property value effects. That's a 192-acre site, is large, well buffered from any of the R1 zones. The environmentally sensitive areas to the west and the south of the site have been preserved. There's been an overall reduction in impervious of, I think it was roughly 10,000 square feet. By locating the newly proposed data center building in substantially the same location of the previous phase 2 demolished office building, the design limits the bulk variance relief requested to slightly worsening pre-existing nonconformities. The worsening of the pre-existing nonconformities is a consequence of locating the new proposed data center building so slightly closer to Princeton Heights Town Road, which together with the design of the building itself has been done in order to increase the buffer between the project and R1 residences, so the rear and south of the property stay out of the environmentally constrained areas, particularly the flood hazard. So the proposed data center in the front yard of the property is positioned far away from the R1 residential neighborhoods in the rear of the property as feasible as possible, which mitigates any noise impact from the project. In essence, there's no negative effect on the surrounding properties or damage to the character of the neighborhood. There's no traffic issues as addressed by the traffic engineer. The project has no detrimental impacts on the surrounding areas, including the nearby residents. So prong number 4, that the benefits of the deviation would substantially outweigh any detriment. Again, the benefits of allowing a local business to exist and expand outweigh any detriments. I don't really see any detriments. I see no substantial negative impact to the public good from the relief. Location of the security fence, parking, guardhouse will have a positive impact and it will ensure safety and security at the data center, a critical component of the business. That the variance will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance. Again, it's consistent with the purposes of the East Windsor Township RO zone and the land use ordinance. Use is consistent with the 2022 Master Plan Reexamination Report by Burgess. We're consistent with the following general goals. To establish the township as a socially balanced and viable community by offering a full variety of housing types and a full range of job opportunities, and to encourage township's development as a subcenter of commercial trade serving local and area-wide needs as defined by the East Windsor Land Use Plan, and to encourage improvement and expansion of job opportunities for local and area-wide residents, and to encourage development that produces a net positive tax benefit to East Windsor Township. Under C, local economy goals and objectives. In 2022 update, remote concentrated rather than scattered commercial or industrial development at strategic locations were adequately serviced by major highways and utility infrastructure. It's consistent with the 2016 amended Mercer County Master Plan framework and its policy goals. Again, to promote appropriate location, design, and new development of opportunities for transit, regional equity, and preservation, and to provide a balance between jobs, housing, for economic growth, and for increased employment opportunities. Again, it's consistent with the New Jersey State Plan and PA2 suburban planning area to promote economic growth and development. Prong 5. This won't impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan and the zoning ordinances. The uses proposed are permitted in the RO zone, computer centers. The data center use and the requested variances are unique and particularly suited to this site, so there's no impairment of the rest of the RO zone or the zone ordinance. I see the relief as fine-tuning rather than a substantial break from the township's zoning principles. The property will continue to operate and function in its inconspicuous manner, as a data center and supports the previous approvals while setting the stage for future development of an additional data center. It does not impair the zone plan or zoning. Any applicant can develop their property per the ordinance. And this application satisfies the criteria of the MLUL for the grant of the C2 variances. Therefore, the planning board is authorized to approve the requested relief. So summarizing my conclusions, and then I'll touch on design waivers right after that. Again, I find the relief requested is justified based on the MLUL criteria. I find that the proposal advances the purposes of the MLUL. I find that the benefits of the proposal are clear and substantial. I find no substantial detriment to the public good of the zone plan or zoning ordinance. I find that the benefits of relief substantially outweigh the detriments of providing the relief, and I would urge the board to grant the relief. Now let me address the design waivers. So the first one we have, number of parking spaces, 740 spaces minimum required, 182 proposed. Again, you heard the testimony. QTS is only going to have probably a max of 115 total people on the site, from employees to tenants to visitors. And this benefits reduced impervious. Again, the waivers required for the number of parking stalls these are necessary to minimize additional impervious coverage associated with the parking. This is a significant reduction of the existing parking area, allows for a net reduction of impervious coverage. And then for section, for a minimum number of loading spaces, again, 19 spaces required, 7 are proposed.
Sorry, I think it's 4, but I was to say it's 4 living spaces, and that's what it's kind of classified as.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All of it.
My old,
Well, we can move that to
thank you. 19 spaces required, 4 spaces proposed. So QTS is not a manufacturing warehouse operation. QTS does not need 19 loading docks. It's only limited delivery of service, electrical equipment. There's very few tractor trailers, and I think as Ron Costa testified, typically there's only like maybe 3 to 5 box trucks a week that come in there. So it's it's very minimal truck traffic, and those additional loading spaces aren't really required. Again, it's consistent with what was previously approved in the previous phase. Again, there's adequate parking and loading provided on the site, and the loading relief is consistent with the previously approved plan. Okay. Approval for building-mounted lighting, where it's not permitted for building-mounted lights that are proposed. There are still some wall lights that are on the west side of the building. Most of those, there were some wall lights previously, I think on the front and the back, but they've been changed. But anyway, the wall-mounted lights need to be approved by the board. Many of these lights are in the generator yard behind the building. And they have some on the west side of the building. It just made more sense to have building-mounted lights. And they're the same kind of cutoff fixtures as the pole lights. These aren't really what you call a floodlight. There's no light trespass to the surrounding properties. Again, the point-by-point foot candles are 0 at the perimeter roadways. And then for the minimum building perimeter trees, where 56 are required, 56 are proposed. The relief is required as proposed trees have been located outside the limits of the perimeter fencing, or 75 feet from the building perimeter. And I think this has to do with, as Dan explained, 4-inch trees. Again, the landscape waivers are necessary due to the design constraints resulting from the limited building envelope due to the environmental conditions of the property. Also, it's very difficult. This ordinance was written probably 35 years ago. It's very difficult to find 4-inch trees now. It's hard to even find 3-inch caliber trees. So it's just based on the industry practices now. It's tough to find 4-inch trees in any significant quantity. So this is a better zoning alternative. Okay, so 2 additional waivers for constructed wetland shape. Again, it's written in the ordinance that the area needs to be graded creatively to blend in the surrounding landscape and the design of the site. The ordinance talks about more of an informal meandering edge with varying slopes. We've just got a different situation here. We're on a very tight site, so we have more of a rectilinear shaped basin. Again, this is not viewed from the public. It's in the back. It's not out in the front yard where someone's going to see it. It's screened by all the buildings, and so no one's going to see this constructed wetlands. Again, it meets with the best management practices, the BMPs by New Jersey. And then there's another
a waiver for constructed wetlands, for reforestation. There's no trees. Again, the primary difference will be the planting of mostly shrubs and grass level plantings as opposed to tree plantings, which are suggested by the township code standards. And we're asking for a waiver for that. Again, we're following the BMPs for New Jersey DEP, which I think don't really allow a lot of trees in constructed wetlands. Rain gardens, yes, but they're not the constructed wetlands. Yeah, we also need a waiver for the overhead wires that are coming off of 1 Mile Road, back along the property, back to 1,200 feet to the proposed electrical substation. Again, JCP&L typically does overhead wires. They're on the property. It's just easier maintenance and everything. I'm not even sure if they can do it underground for that size voltage. But
So just a little clarification, during testimony, we will comply with the 4-inch caliber trees. We're going to comply with that. So that way we'll know.
We are?
Yeah.
Are you going to find them?
We'll figure it out. Try to reduce the weight trees.
What did you say?
We're going to have 4-inch caliber trees, so that won't require a waiver now. Section 15-27.98.
Okay. Yeah, okay, sorry. Again, for all the reasons set forth above, I think this is going to significantly upgrade and enhance the existing data center campus, enable the applicant to meet the future needs of his class in a modern facility in the township. The campus includes 2 data centers working in tandem with one another, serviced by an electrical substation that converts power for efficient and reliable service. The property will be laid out in a more efficient manner, with uses that will provide a benefit to all East of Windsor residents. Again, this concludes my presentation, and I request the board grant the waivers. Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Any questions from the board on this?
Yes, Chair. Just 2 questions. With regard to your testimony as it pertains to the front yard buffer area, you talk about the effectiveness is being maintained. That's being maintained with the appropriate landscaping?
Yes.
And that's what you're commenting on? Is
Yes.
You feel in your professional opinion?
Yes.
Okay. Also, the building height. You had indicated that you were 4 feet above the maximum height. You're actually at 76.31. Is it 6.31 feet?
No, I got my numbers back.
76.31.
But it's still a C variance.
Correct. C variance under 10 feet or 10%.
Thank you.
Apologies for that.
Just touching on your testimony, I know you touched on a few things, but yet in the testimony you've heard earlier with regard to the offset distances to the proposed building and the distances to adjacent residential properties, in your professional opinion, is that providing some of the benefits to the impact of this building height variance?
Yes, indeed.
I think that's something that should be pointed out.
Yes, I mean, we're from the residential zone, we're, I think it was over 7,000. Yeah.
Location you're at.
Yes.
Okay, and so also that's furthering some of the benefits of the goals and objectives to protect residential areas and property buffering.
Yes.
So any further questions?
That's all my wishes.
Two things I'd like to hear. I will open up the public. We'll open up to the public in a couple of minutes for 40 minutes actually. For the next time, I would like to hear from JCP&L And also, I'd like to support testimony on the closed loop cooling. Those are the only two things that I know. Anybody else?
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yes.
Questions about the electric?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if QTS has insight into negotiations, or if you're responsible, or if your tenants are responsible for the capacity requirements. Do you have an understanding of what the full build-out capacity requirements are going to be, and whether or not that's going to require additional generation capacity by Jason?
Also, I have one other question. We have a huge solar field over there. I would like to know what portion of the power is provided by the solar field.
So the solar field, the solar field quantities we can get back to you on. As for the power generation for JCP&L, in the communication that we've had with them and the negotiations that we've had, we do power studies, and it has not been implied there are any additional generation required to support our facility.
And again, would you, as part of your lease agreements, or would this be directed from your tenants to JCP&L, whether or not they'd be required to have any rate protection pledges or anything like that that's been in the news recently present on your tenants?
So any of the facility upgrades that are necessary to support our campus, QTS pays for.
That's your infrastructure. I'm talking about the electric cost impact.
The electric cost impact, that's something that we would have to circle back on for you.
Just to see your potential tenants.
Right, so that would be something that would
I know it's very new now out there,
that would be something that we can come back to you on for speaking with Jason,
And again, I asked this question at the beginning because it has to do with backup requirements. I'd like to understand the architecture of a data center a little bit, whether a data center itself has a cloud for its backup, so that its load can be transferred somewhere else, its processing load, which would minimize the need possibly minimize the need for extended backup generators running. If it can transfer its load somewhere else. I have no idea. It's just something I think about.
I know that in the environmental impact statement, there are comments about no impact to air quality. So I'm just wondering if there's air permits that you have filed.
So there are air permits applications. So air permit applications will be something that we'll be proceeding for with NJDEP. So we have existing air permits for our first facility, and they'll be seeking additional air permits amendments for the second facility.
Are you already a major facility, Title 5 facility?
No, sir.
You've limited your hours of operation of generators.
We're a synthetic miner.
And you will stay that way after?
Yes.
In your negotiations with tenants, does their power consumption requirement enter into the negotiation?
Yeah, you know that.
So, let me go through the questions. First, we have operated 5 lines because we don't know, nor do we mandate what operates from a tenant's perspective. We don't know if they're doing cold dark storage, we don't know if they're doing processing, we don't know if they're running applications. So it's very possible this is the only place where an application is running. But we don't dictate, just like an apartment landlord doesn't dictate how many televisions someone can have in their apartment. When you lease that space from us, we have rules around safety, we have rules around the environmental protection, but you can put whatever servers you deem fit for your business need in that area. So whether or not it's something that could go down, that would be up to the tenant. Most of our tenants, and I have to be a little big here, but you can kind of look at a geographical map and understand where I'm going. Most of our tenants can't go down. They have fiduciary responsibilities to be online. So that does dictate the emergency management.
We will open up the public. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, come up front. And we can let you. Yes. So we will do this until 8:30. I'm going to try to limit the time for anybody to have 3 minutes. Very short time.
That's not enough time to cross-examine a witness.
You didn't show in their testimony.
That's ridiculous, I'm sorry.
Need something for?
Point of order, what does the bylaws say?
My first comment was a comment I
Oh, wait,
recommend.
identify yourself, please.
I did. My name is Michael Gill. I live in East Windsor.
Okay, and are you associated with any other organization?
No.
Okay, fine.
I'm a resident.
Okay,
Period. I want to commend the panel first. We're starting at 5 o'clock and having so many guest speakers that we had to wait here for three hours before any of us could talk. Some of us, the older folks, had to leave. People with children had to leave. So now we've got a smaller group that doesn't represent the full force of our community here. Number 2, you've been in this council, these people have asked for so many variances. You might as well give them a free hand, let them do what they want. There have also been many surveys done, many studies done. Water consumption, the increase in rates for electricity are all due to these facilities. That's got to stop. If you tell me that if they tell me that they're going to absorb all the water, all the electric bills, maybe I'll consider it. But until that time, no. I'm not going to do it. The other question I have for the committee, okay, is very simple. We were here about a month ago. The community did not want a data center on Probasco Road. We turned it down. What makes you think that we want one now? Tell me why we want one now. I don't think you have one. And just remember, everybody comes up for a vote.
Yes, come on, please.
Hi, my name is Michelle Solomon, moved here in 1973, I was 7 years old, you can do the math. So I'm a resident, I've been a resident of East Windsor all this time. Janice was already at food store the other day, told me everything in my power not to go running up to you and complain, but I'm trying to be very respectful. All of you at the panel, very smart people, I respect you for all of your smarts, you know, I get that, but we don't want a data center. Again, we'll circle back to how much money it's going to cost us for the electricity. Really? That's the question you circle back to? I don't understand. We want to know now. I want to know, does anybody here live on Wilmore or Dutch Neck that this is going to back? I don't think so. Are any of you living in East Windsor? I don't think so. You know what? This is ridiculous. Your pretty little pictures, I'm sorry, when I drive down 571, it's a monstrosity that I'm looking at. You know what? You guys had a choice when that land went from McGraw Hill, which actually employed a lot of people in East Windsor, not like you guys who are not going to employ anybody. And so you could have made recreation centers, you could have put pools in, could have done something for the community. We decided to go with this. This is disgusting. Nobody wants this in our town. I don't understand who people live in our town. What do you want it in our town for? I just don't understand. Where are you guys coming from? You live here too. So that's all I have to say, and yes, we voted down, and we made you vote it down on the spot, because this whole room was filled for the other one. And you snuck in this other one that we have here, because nobody knew what was going on, and you snuck it in. As far as I'm concerned, you can implode it down to the ground. Why don't you put something in for the town that the town actually wants and needs? We don't need this crap in our town. Get it back, get it out. Don't let any more back in here. You're all very smart, I get what you're doing, but we don't want it. Put it in your town, not ours.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. What was the
Susan
name? I'll find it on
Anderson.
YouTube.
I lived in my house on Brick Tree Road for 53 years. I have a couple of questions that somebody may be able to answer. I didn't see anything on the presentation boards about the police department. In my mind, this project is backing towards the police department. Will a substation interfere with police department communications and JCP&L wires running that way? Are the police still going to be able to function in the way they need to protect all of us? There was a large article in the New York Times last Sunday about data centers and substations, that oftentimes there seems to be an agreement with the power company and data centers about how the cost of such a substation will be handled. And there are many instances where it ends up being shifted, the burden ends up being shifted onto the residents of the township. So I'm very leery of people who have agreements but don't seem to be actually writing the checks. How many wells does East Windsor Township have? And what is the size of this initial water draw that they're planning to do? And then they say they don't know exactly how many tenants they're going to have. What if that initial water draw is not enough to satisfy the tenants that they presently have, or they expect to have? Are they going to keep coming back for more water draws? And how will that impact us? Those are my questions. And those are my concerns.
So I'm going to touch on a couple of questions that were just asked.
One second. I just want to interrupt 1 second. You got 2.5 minutes to talk. I know this question. Do you mind if we have other people from here speak before they answer their questions? Or will they answer the
Public has a right to ask questions, and they deserve answers.
It'll be a quick response. First off, QTS pays for all of the infrastructure upgrades we do electrically. We don't ask for a dime from any public utility. If that's transmission lines, if that's acquiring property, if that's putting up new substations, we foot the bill for that. There are some other data center companies that don't do that. They look for incentives from the utility, they look for incentives from the state. It's not our money. So there's no rate increase or rate hike that would be directly due to the construction of this data center. Touching on the water, we fill the building one time, and it's about the equivalent of 1.5 to 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Once we do, it's the equivalent to 1.5 to 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Once the system is filled, it operates like the radiator in your car. You don't have to top it off, and if you do, you're topping off this much at a time. It's not the old style coolers where there's hundreds of gallons of water flowing across the media hall. That technology is still in use. It's in use by other data center companies in New Jersey. It does not meet our model. Our model is very environmentally sustainable. So once we fill the system, will we have to add 100 gallons if we have some sort of failure and we have to replace a component? It's possible. Will we ever have to do a complete refill? It is not calculatable. It's about 2 swimming pools, 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools.
What now is that?
A couple $100,000.
Yeah, but you pay for the electric going in, but you don't have anything to do with it afterwards.
Hey,
So we're still
let's
stuck.
keep this in order, please.
Jack, I think the total testimony was 20,000 gallons.
Per month.
That's our operational use. That's for making coffee, flushing toilets, cleaning floors.
Not adding to the loop itself. And this is obviously something we need to discuss further in the next meeting. Yes.
Closed loop doesn't last forever either. We'll have to top it off and have water today.
Okay, please.
All right. Next, who else would like to speak? Please. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Linda Behrens, and I've been a Keystone resident since 1997. And since we are on the topic of water, and that is one of the things I'm constantly reading about, is the problem with data centers. And I just want to say that between January 2025 and April of 2025, I had a 24% increase in my water bill, as did everyone in my neighborhood. And they were all talking about why and how this could happen. And we did not know that that was right after the data center had opened, which was supposed to be in February of 2025. So I think a 24% increase is quite a lot. And if we multiply that by the approximately 11,600 households in the township, that's a big increase of water usage and money.
Okay, we'll get an answer from you anyway on that.
My name is Jody Eccles-Freaks. I've been a resident of East Windsor since 1989, and I have everything written down. I stay in the time limits that we're not imposing on the other people.
Can you repeat your last name, please? Last name?
Eccles-Freaks. Okay, so first, I just want to say I feel disrespected because the residents were not given a huge amount of warning about this meeting. It was said at 5 o'clock when people are still working. This is the 3rd time that we've had to show up to say we don't want this, and you keep trying to push this on us. And again, like the other lady said, you live here too. Why do we want this? We don't want this in our town. This was very hard for people to come to. While I'm only speaking specifically for myself and my organization, I can't tell how many people I've had texting me during this meeting, let you know what's going on, because I couldn't make it tonight. So some of the comments I'm going to say are things that they've asked me to say as well. Not only that, but you refuse to hold the meeting. We're all the way back over here. We can't even hear what's being said. So we're sitting here for 3 hours listening to droning that we can't even understand. You need to put this in one of the schools or something where everybody can sit and hear what's being said. It's really not respectful to the residents. So, like I said, I've lived here nearly 27 years. I've raised my 5 children here. They're adults now. They would like to remain in the town. But they fear this push for data centers because it will cause a rise in costs beyond their means, and it will change the community to something that they don't want to stay in anymore. I would love for my kids to be around. I would love to stay there myself. Whereas we're going to sell our houses if we have all these data centers. I mean, people don't want this. Look online, look, you can't find anything positive about these centers in any articles. I have not found one positive article in any of the research I've done. This company doesn't want to follow East Windsor standards. All I'm hearing is you guys asking for waivers. So why do you want to be here? Why are you coming here when you don't want any of the rules that we have in our town? Here's a question. If a waiver is given for parking and the data center closes or moves, who is going to want to buy or rent the space when they only have approximately a fifth of the required parking that's required in any other place? Why are they want to just put in this small amount of parking because they don't need it for them. But if they leave, then what happens? Who's going to want the space? It's also showing that this will not supply a significant amount of jobs for our community because they only need, I think they said, 181 parking spaces? Certainly not jobs. As other people have said, it's going to be an added drain on our electricity. Many residents are already putting power surges and brownouts. My family's bills are the highest it's ever been since 1999. Can you guarantee the supply of our electricity and our bills won't continue to rise? Every other community except one of these centers regrets it, and one of the biggest reasons is the humongous rise in the price of their electricity and the effect on the supply. So I don't understand why we would want this in our town. I know you're saying it's not going to affect our water, but it's affected water in so many other towns, and you're saying you don't know who it was even going to be in there, so you don't know all the different things. So how do you know that you're not going to need more water than what you're saying now? And what proof do we have?
Did you say in the email that they have to stop by 8:30?
And are you going to have to ask anybody if you're going to use it and suddenly we're not going to have enough water? For my family personally, our water bill recently went up 50%, maybe because of what the other lady was talking about. And since we moved here, it's doubled. So how much are we going to pay when they start using more water and there's not enough water? We would also like to know what studies specifically in East Windsor have been done to determine if the aquifer can sustain data centers' needs of water without affecting local residents' wells or the community supply. Is there going to be any kind of guarantee that our wells won't run dry? We're also concerned about any wastewater that they have. Is it going to do anything to the safety of our water? And what guarantee do we have on that? If these centers are so wonderful, why are you guys coming from Kansas wanting to build it in New Jersey, the most densely populated state in the country, one of the most densely populated places in the world? You have much more space in Kansas. Stay there. Put it in your neighborhood. You've already anymore. This is categories that we are telling you, our town council, if you put this in, I have so many people who said to me they will go out and campaign against you for somebody else to be on our town council because we don't want anybody on our town council who wants a data center in our town. We don't have it. We're early to tell you over and over again, no, we don't want it. We don't want an expansion. We don't want a new one. We don't want it, period. Just no. That's the answer. You don't need any more meetings. You don't need any more comments. I have not talked to one person in our town who wants this. Thank you.
Good evening, Boswell. I live at 33 Brook Tree Road in East Windsor. Been in town about 13 years. I have been in IT for about 30, and I work for a company that does host services in a data center. I go to the data center at 3 different junctures. I go there when I'm putting something in, I go there when I'm taking something out, and I go there when something breaks. So tenants don't tend to go to a data center too much. Also, QTS doesn't have any control, obviously, over the hiring of employees for the tenants. So when we're looking at numbers, job growth, and I've heard the word benefit used a lot. The word benefit must have been used 50 times. Really, the only benefit I see in the data center for our town is the potential for job growth. But they obviously have no control over their tenants hiring. I can tell you, the tenants are not hiring people to come to the data center. They'll use existing employees. They'll hire maybe 20 people. There's no guarantee that they're going to hire them out of a pool of East Windsor residents. We're not in Culpeper, Virginia, or someplace rural where there's a good chance that the employees you're going to hire are going to come out of the local community. There's by no means any guarantee that that is going to happen. Failing that, I just fail to see any benefit for East Windsor at all. To me, that is the crux of it. Is what are we doing for East Windsor? What is this data center bringing to East Windsor at all in terms of any benefit at all? The work
heard, I'm glad to listen to your short answer from our guests today. I just heard that word a lot. Other than the potential for very limited job growth, tell me what the benefits are.
They don't have any.
Do any of you have anything to say? Do you want to address that?
I'm sorry.
You want to wait and answer that later?
We have the answers, we'll gather everything that we said about that.
Come on now.
Oh, come on.
The witnesses are obligated to answer the questions.
The idea that we would approve this without any idea what's going on with JCP&L and what the impact is going to be of that expansion of the electric infrastructure, which is.
Can we have that first?
That's his job. Yeah.
All right, we'll have that anyway from JCP.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Donna Ferragamo. I've been a resident of East Windsor since 2002, and I'm pretty much here to reiterate what everyone else has said. I don't understand what the benefit of having this data center in East Windsor is. What we get back. Are they participating in the pilot program? Anyone? The pilot program, paying for those taxes? No? Yes? I mean, are they getting a break on taxes and then we're getting nothing from this?
No.
Okay, well, that's it, thank you. Again, just wanted to reiterate, I don't know the benefits of having this data center.
$20 a month. Just in the state alone, there's 2 data centers in the town of Kenilworth and Vineland currently being built, are expected to require 500 watts of electricity. That is enough electricity to power all the homes in Kansas City. On June 1st, 2025, the price of crude oil was trading at $60 per barrel. As of today, since the market opened due to what's going on in the Middle East, the price soared past $100 a barrel. How will that all these additional demands on the power grid make New Jersey more affordable? Let's talk about water. If taken from the Raritan Mahogany aquifer, by 2028, all data centers require as much as 18.5 million gallons of water. That's enough households to just cooling services. The closed-loop systems used for cooling can lose 25% of their volume per month. Closed-loop systems suffer from bacterial growth where cleaning chemicals are used as part of a maintenance they will eventually need. Will be discharge posing water quality issues. How does this affect the prices of water and cost of environmental damage? One of the impacts of data centers is e-waste. Data centers use hardware to run AI using microchips, processors, and storage compartments. These devices have a 2 to 5 year life expectancy, and replacement with new up-to-date versions effectively generate up to 5 million tons of e-waste by 2030. My question today to everybody, who is afraid to see their electric bill come in the next couple of months because of the increase of electricity in the state of New Jersey? Thank you.
Okay, we have 9 more minutes. Anybody else?
Hello, my name is Daniel Kessler. I live on Dutch Neck Road. I've been a resident here pretty much ever since I was born. I really kind of just have a couple of questions. I didn't really plan this out. This is my first time really just learning about this data center as you've been here. I mean, I've just been unbeknownst to me until it was being built behind the fence. I mean, this is really the first time hearing about it that we're adding to it. So my first question is you guys went into detail about noise level, and you said a little bit about the vibration, but you kind of just scratched the surface on that. And have you thought about the impact of the vibration for people that have houses in the area? 'Cause like I said, there's a long Dutch Neck Road, for houses that have subterranean, below ground level vibrations. Because when those generators run, if you have like a semi-truck outside, you know, you kind of can't hear it. You go downstairs, you can feel it. So you seem to be very certain that, you know, oh, in the event of any problems, that you're just going to have like maybe 2 generators running. But I can count on one hand the amount of times that we lost power in New Jersey, in this area, from my birth till Hurricane Sandy. And then now the amount of times that we've lost power within just the most recent like year or two. And I think anecdotally, it might be because of your data center. We had the power grid go down in the area. My wife works on Princeton Heights Town Road at the Target there. I can't tell you the amount of times they've had to literally waste the entire food supply they have in the grocery section because they lost power. You guys have a lot of security in our grid, but JCP&L is a very poor company, and we have lost power, I cannot tell you how many times within recent years. And so, you know, there's some rumors of like a fire at one of those stations that's right there on 1 Mile Road that went down. I know we lost power at my house. Like I said, my wife lost power at work. This has happened a countless amount of times within the most recent years. So you keep talking about just maybe 2 generators running, but I don't know, we keep losing power. So how much is that going to be adding vibrations where you can feel it where I live while it's cranking the whole time with all the generators running because we've lost power yet again. It happens way too many times in a year. Like I said, I didn't plan this out, but I just wanted that something to think about. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Jeanette Bergeron, and I live in Hamilton, New Jersey. And I just wanted to mention that the problem with JCP&L and other regulated monopolies are that they will approve whatever you ask of them because they make their money from the capital expenditure needed to generate and distribute the added energy that is requested. They don't make money off of just providing the energy. They make money off of the capital expenditure. So they will, of course, say, yes, we can do this in our capacity because they're in a bigger PJM grid that requires all 6 or 8 states to combine their resources to provide the energy for those states. So it's going to be a foregone conclusion that they'll say yes, and we'll be paying higher electricity bills as a result. Thank you for your time.
This will probably be the last one.
Really, 3 hours?
We'd like 3 hours.
My name is John Hall. I live in Twin Rivers on the Walden Road, and I've lived there since 1993. I have a couple of questions that I'd like to address to the gentleman, and maybe they could just answer them one by one. So, you guys already have one basement and one building. Do you see the possibility in the future of building a third?
I'll take your questions, and we're going to be back and we'll have answers.
Okay, what is the current square footage of the existing building? And what is the planned square footage of this second one? How many clients do you currently have in the first one?
One tenant.
One tenant.
One tenant.
Is it currently an AI data center?
I can't say what the client does. I can just tell you they're usually days I can
So they're using the entire square footage?
They lease the entire building.
The second data center that you guys are wanting to build, how many possible clients can that one house?
Very hard to say. And we can start this conversation with the tenants when we don't have a product to sell.
Is it possible that it could also be taken over by one client?
It's possible, given market conditions. I think that this building can have multiple tenants.
I think I heard you guys mention earlier something about 8 septic spaces.
There can be 8 or so spaces, depending on how it's working.
Which would, let's say, if you have 300,000 square feet divided by 8, what is that, 25?
It's not done by square foot, it's done by electrical lines. So the building is broken down into 42 lines. So client and paid.
I gotta find it. You have my email address.
And of course, at this time, you don't know who they will be or whether they will be AI centric or just regular.
You can't go.
You don't have the approvals.
Yeah, have you started negotiations?
So that's what's moving. That's all for me. Thank you very much. We'll go over for another 5 or 10 minutes.
Carol Murray.
Where can I see that video?
And we have lived in this town.
No, just-
I will just point
Carol
out
Murray.
that they literally said here tonight. that
And I live on Woodland.
part of the reason you're doing this
And we have lived there since 1977. My husband has lived there since 1961. The change has been terrible. We came here to stop the solar panels, we got the solar panels. We flooded the back, we flooded Oak Creek Road, we finally fixed that problem. We've been told by someone that they're thinking about doing away with the solar panels. I'm getting ahead of myself. Phase 1, we knew this was gonna be a little data center. We knew this was phase 1, 3 phases. When we got our letter about the variances, and you go to the township, you're not very people friendly, they gave you a box of blueprints and say, here, we don't know what they're gonna do. So I think as a resident, someone in that township should be able to tell us, and the girl come down with the box of blueprints and say, here, you can read the blueprints, which meant nothing to us. I'm worried about the new generator. We don't hear the little one, is the new one bigger, or are we gonna hear it? They told us we weren't gonna hear the solar panels. On a really hot day, those solar panels was, we're in the middle of the lot, so the solar panels are further away from us. They promised the trees, half the trees are still dying around the solar panels. You know, the buffer they built, the trees are dying. We came in the beginning, I guess people have forgotten about the solar panels because they don't even mow by the solar panels. The first year QTS was there, I was calling them every other month. We had a Portland Township, somebody had to go out and measure the weeds with 12 inches, then they would call somebody at QTS, come mow the grass. They planted the trees drop the leaves go up against the fence, and they just stay there because QTS doesn't take care of breaking the leaves away from us. They gave us 3 rows of trees behind each of our properties, so I would have rather have Christmas trees to block the buffer and the sound, because those trees growing aren't going to block the sound. They don't take care of the leaves, they're just blown over all the yards. And, well, the rotation, okay. And I'm curious, I knew that in the beginning there was a phase 3. Is there a phase 3? We thought we were getting this nice little data center. Now you want to expand into this huge data center. My feel is it could be a terrorist place for somebody to attack to, because you don't know who their tenants are and what they
Hello, I'm Kim Cherry. I'm with the Sierra Club. I'm on the state board. And as you know, we are facing a real crisis in power in our state and in water as well. So there are a lot of questions that you all need to ask before you make a final decision. For instance, backup power. How is it going to be generated? It could be generated using solar with a backup power, battery system. Could be used using natural gas. It could be doing a lot of different things. And if you don't understand that, you're not going to have much control over what happens. The rates are going up. They're going to continue to go up. We don't have a good handle on our grid in New Jersey. We are part of another grid. We're not in control. PSE&G and all the other utilities are not in control of what's going on with rates. That's coming from outside of our state. It's going to take quite a while to get control over this whole situation. But one of the ways is to try to use alternative sources of power and to make sure that any data center that goes in uses the most unimpactful power that you can get. There's a solar array on the site. I don't know much about it. I assume it's already connected to something and not available for this particular project. But there are geothermal, there are a lot of different alternatives, and you really need to understand how many megawatts, for instance, is this project going to require? Where is that power coming from? How is it going to affect your rates? You're part of, as I said, of a large rate structure, so you don't have say per se, but if everybody doesn't begin to control their energy consumption and the rates that they are creating in their own community, then the rates will just continue to balloon. So at least, no matter what you do, at least you need to be educated on what's happening and how you can make this project as unimpactful as possible, both in terms of the power situation, the backup power, the water supply. We have a finite water supply. There's some attitude that we can get water anytime, anywhere we want, but that's not the case. So I'm just sort of giving you a warning. We're working on this very hard at the state level. The governor is working on this very hard. As you know, we have a new governor, and this is one of her top priorities. And the problems are not going to go away. You're part of the problem, and you need to be part of the solution. Thank you very much.
We hear the theme of the evenings, we know what it is.
Okay, so there will be responses.
Yes, let her go. She's been waiting all night.
Last speaker. And by the way, you will have another opportunity at the next meeting.
We don't want another opportunity. We want this voted down now. We say no.
My name is Emma Behrens. I've lived since 2003 in East Windsor on Oak Branch Road, next to Cranberry. I work at a tech startup. I work in deep tech. We don't use data centers, but many of our vendors do, many of our clients do. I completely understand the importance of your product, of technological development, especially in the state of New Jersey, and I applaud you. I know you're trying to do your jobs. All of the solutions, all of the benefits that you talk about, the buffers, the tree barriers, the minimizing the parking spots, the trying to minimize noise levels, these are all Band-Aids. These are all Band-Aids, these are all minor solutions on top of a problem that we are trying to address. None of us want the data center here. This is what we campaigned 4 weeks ago. We came to a previous meeting. I don't know what else to say, except voicing my incredible dissatisfaction about, being here for 3.5 hours and only getting, the ending portion to speak, because clearly we have many dissatisfied citizens here. These citizens are your constituency, and these citizens can vote you guys out.
Sometimes the public
need a date. When are we next?
You're appointed.
Vote it down now. Why can't you vote it down now?
Yeah, why do we need another
Let me have the floor for a second, all right? First of all, there is something called the municipal land use law of the state of New Jersey. Any property owner is entitled to come before a planning board or a zoning board to seek the right to develop their property. And that's why we're having this hearing tonight. This board has not made any rulings, has not made any adjudications. They're going to hear all the testimony, they're going to hear all the public comment, and then, as per the municipal land use law, they're going to make an educated decision. All right? That's how the process works. That's how the process works. We cannot vote on this now because they have not provided this board with all of the information that is necessary. So let me
Why
finish.
did you structure this in such a way that citizens don't get to speak?
So, right now, they're going to come back.
Is this new meeting going to be someplace where we can all see and hear?
Yeah, you need a bigger room.
Will we all be able to speak?
Right now, the meeting will be scheduled for April 27th. It will be here. If there's an issue with having it here, you will be notified.
We could have predicted there'd be an issue with this space.
We're standing here. You will not receive any further notice. All right, so it's April 27th.
So
at
you're
5
telling us
p.m.
already you're going to be disrespectful of us again and not have a proper.
You don't see the problem.
We'll just start
Yeah.
campaigning against you guys now.
You're not doing well.
This was an unsafe situation you had here.
Well, that's why under, and by the way, due process works both ways, okay? Due process works both ways. They're entitled to due process, as are you. You will have an opportunity to make any comments you want, all right? And you will have an
See the
extended
logical
opportunity.
sense to move it bigger, please.
I'm not
Yeah.
going to be badgered. My job as the attorney for this planning board is to protect the town.
Respectfully, please pick a bigger room. Use the senior center. Schedule it for a bigger room. Think ahead. Use the senior center.
Meeting is adjourned.
This year, there's just a must have done and no information. I understand there's a huge tax base.